All right, welcome, ladies and gentlemen. We've got a nice little stream lined up for you today. We have RTK versus the ITO Collective, as we have our first matchup going to be getting just about readied up here. It is going to be Lizardmen versus Greenskins, as we have Bob Tresh versus Tesla. Should be a good, fun match for that. It's going to be on Kelp and Coal Dust for this first one. And then we are going to be getting into some more matches. We'll give a quick little run through on how this little clan war is going to work out. So it is going to be broken down into 4 1v1s, and each of those is going to be worth 1 point. After that, we are going to get into 2 2v2s, each of which are going to be 2 points apiece. And then we are going to be getting into the finale, which is a 3v3, which is going to be worth a whopping 3 points. And we'll see who is on top by the end of things. Usually that 3v3 is pretty much the decider, and it should be some good fun there. So following this Lizardman versus Greenskin matchup, it is going to be Greenskins by Vicious Satsuma, and then it is going to be Newport on the Empire. After that, we are going to be getting into the Wood Elves versus Dawi with J Phoenix versus Dactor. And then we'll be going into Bretonia versus Lizardman again, and that is going to be Prussian Prince versus CP330. Should be some good fun with these 1v1s. And before I forget, let's get that back on. So both sides hopefully should be ready to go. Give them a little ping, see if they are ready. And then we'll be getting on into this first matchup. So this first one, it is going to be a probably a Lizardman favored matchup for the most part, depending on, unless you're Vicious Satsuma, I think you're going to be a little bit at a disadvantage if you are Greenskins in this matchup. The big dinos are kind of a hard thing to be bringing down, but it should be good fun, because I mean the Greenskins do have their own large monsters themselves if they want to contest that, and they do have a pretty decent skirmish, but the Lizardman skirmish is also pretty strong as well. So we should be some good fun. So it looks like we got Tesla's ready, just waiting on Bob, and we should be getting right on into things. Alright. So let's roll on into our first match. Should be some fun. Alright, switch that scene on over as both sides are loading on in. Kelp on Coal Dust is kind of an interesting map, not one you'll often see in kind of the tournament scene, mostly because of these impassable terrain you're going to be seeing on both sides. It can be a spot for artillery to set up, and it's just kind of a little bit harder because it is not completely even on both sides. One's a little bit taller than the rest. Otherwise, it does have plenty of open field, so let's go over what the Greenskins have, and speaking of which, let's update some settings real quick. There we go. And now for the Greenskin army, or not the Lizardman army, it is going to be some Saurus warriors with some skink cohorts of javelins in the front line. We also have the cohort of Sotex, the red-crested skinks ROR. We have a solar Bastillodon up on the ridge there, and we also are going to be seeing an ancient stag. And I believe we're also going to be having Mazda Mundi on his own ancient stag. And Mazda Mundi is going to be bringing Nets of Amnantok Harmonic Convergence, as well as Apotheosis for a little bit of heals, and can cause fear on some of the non-terror causing units on the field. He has Shield of the Old Ones. We have the Bound Banishment, as well as the Ruination of Cities. Going to be doing quite a bit of damage there with those spells. We also have a flying air force of some Pterodon riders going to be up in the sky, and one of which is the Pahawk Sentinels, going to having a nice little bit of extra missile damage compared to the regular Pterodon riders, who have 76 versus the 96 of the Pahawk Sentinels. We do have the Skink Chief as well for a little bit extra poison on the field, and then we are going to be having just one more javelin on the far flank. So let's swing on over to what the Greenskins are going to have to offer, as we do have some Goblin Wolf Rider archers in for the skirmish potential here. I'm going to be expecting to see some of the Forest Goblin Spiders, but I don't really be seeing any of those. We do have a Goblin Great Shaman on his Arachnarok Spider, going to be bringing Vindictive Glare, and I believe that is, I don't think that's Itchy Nuisance. sneaky stabbing, given 24 armor piercing and plus 24 melee attack. And he also does have the Arachnarok Queen as well, who has some spider hatchling summons to be throwing into the mix. And in the back, we do have 4 Snotling pump wagons going in for some fun units in the rear here. And we trying to cycle through that Lizardman formation. Fun unit, not one that you'll be often seeing. And then we also have the ROR Night Goblins, which is going to be the 8 Peak Loonies. We have the Rusty Arrows and some more Goblin Archers in the tree line. Otherwise, front line is going to be some Orc boys. It looks like one side is ready to go. Both sides have readied up, so we'll be getting underway as the Greenskins are going to be pushing forward with their Pterodon Riders in the sky. So let's get that out of the way, as both armies are going to be slowly advancing towards one another. The infantry side is going to be a little heavier on the Greenskins. Not a whole lot of infantry for the Lizardmen here, only going to be having that Saurus Warriors with the cohort of Sotex. Of course, they do have these Skink cohort with Javelins, who once they've used up their ammunition, can be using their just in melee. And yes, Piet, the track there is the Fall of Man, the Empire soundtrack for Warhammer. So far, the first shot's going to be running in from the Solar Bastillodon, landing in a little bit among these Goblin Wolf Rider Archers, not doing a whole lot of damage. And if you take a look at the range here, the Solar Bastillodon can be firing into these Orc Boys and actually can start hitting these Goblin Archers now from its peak up on the ridge line there. But at this point, the rest of the Greenskin army is kind of holding in the rear, going to be waiting to take some shots. Because honestly, if these Orc Boys are the ones taking the shots, they have a pretty loose formation, aren't going to be taking too much from that Solar Bastillodon. It's the Archers that really are going to be taking a lot of damage there. The Skink Chief does try and get sniped out by a Vindictive Glare, but doesn't really take all too much damage initially. And the Pterodon Rider is going to be trying to trade into these Goblin Wolf Riders on this flank. Otherwise, it's going to be a very slow start to this match. Both sides going to be taking their time, kind of poking at the other side, trying to get an advantage. It looks like the Goblin Great Shaman is going to be getting a little bit of an elevated position up here. With already on the elevated position, the Shaman gets a nice little bit for that Vindictive Glare. And on the left flank here, we are just going to have a little bit more pushing back, as the Skink cohorts are going to get a little screened out by these Orc Boys, but they still have all of their ammunition, and they can do quite a bit if they can get a nice shot. But Ruination of Cities goes down right into the Rusty Arrows, and it is going to be routing them off on the cast there, doing a ton of damage. So they are going to be off the field, at least for the time being. They should be coming back in due time, but that is a lot of damage early on, and especially with all of these Pterodon Riders now, it shouldn't be too hard for them to really get pushed back. But it looks like the Greenskins are going to be going on the offensive now, as the Snotlings are going to be starting to push into the, I guess, only these 2 Bastillodons up on, and the Ancient Stegodon up on the hill. The rest of the Lizardman army is starting to push down into the lower fields of the map here, as they're going to start to push in against here. But it looks like we have a Bound Banishment this time. Going to be going in, maybe looking to catch out some of these Goblin Archers, which it does look like it's going to be going off right in the middle of those, doing some nice decent damage there, but then it's going to be going off into the middle of nowhere. It looks like it is going to be arcing its way back, as it does go back off into the distance. But a very slow initial start. Lizardman is definitely getting a slight advantage on that initial balance of power, but otherwise a very slow and steady approach by the Greenskins. Don't want to be getting too overextended, but they are doing some decent damage to these Pterodon Riders. However, they have been started losing some of these Goblin Archers here. Even these Goblin Wolf Rider Archers are starting to take quite a bit of damage and are slowly getting routed off. But these Rusty Arrows are back into the fight. Going to be taking some more shots up in the sky, but having both of these Pterodon Riders up in the sky might be enough, especially with those rock drops, to start routing them off once again. And if they can get rid of those, that's really a big threat to the Dinos gone. Those Dinos with their high armor do not want to be getting their armor sundered, but now both of the Arachnarok Spiders going to be kind of teaming up on this Ancient Stegodon. The Ancient Steg is going to be quite a fearsome foe, but both of the Spiders going to be very hard for it to deal with on its own, though just the general leadership of the Spiders, you can already see it just starting to dip down a little bit as the shield of the Old Ones goes down for the initial frontline engagement between these Orc Boys and the cohort of Sotek. Hey Davina, welcome. Yes, nice early stream indeed. Getting some off, so some of the earlier folks, or folks on the other side of the world, are going to be able to see it. Solar Pistol, and it's actually almost out of its ammunition already. I don't really see its damage output in its fullest. I think it's mostly been shooting into some archers and doing some damage to these spiders here, but now with Lord Mazdamundi and the Ancient Stag actually is going to be trying to cycle in. It does have a very meaty charge bonus, so it is going to be coming in and out of this formation, trying to really punish the Arachnarok's Queen here, and especially with Lord Mazdamundi in as well. And we're going to have a ruination of cities going right on top of these Orc Boys, seeing how well this thing goes as the first shots do arc its way, doing most damage to those Orc Boys, cutting through the Saurus a little bit on the flank. Otherwise, a fairly lucky cast on that. It is going to actually be able to terrify these Orc Boys with Lord Mazdamundi and the Ancient Steg. And these spiders, especially the Goblin Great Shaman, is taking quite a bit of damage, and it is wavering right now. It's actually going to rout. Now that's going to leave just the Arachnarok Queen alone against both of these Ancient Stegs. It looks like Mazdamundi is going to be hunting down that Goblin Great Shaman, does not want to let that thing come back into the fight, but the Snotlings doing quite a bit of work in the back lines here, really kind of just mucking things up, but the Saurus Warriors are going to be able to screen them out, especially now that the front line has broken, and that is going to leave that frontal engagement open, as the attention is now going to be able to focus more on the rear engagement, as these Snotling Pump Wagons taking some shots from these Pterodon Riders. One of them is going to rout, but the Pterodon Riders are pretty much all out of ammunition. Some of them just have a few shots left, but really the big loss for the Greenskin here is going to be the Goblin Great Shaman, who is going to be netted as well, and that's just going to allow Lord Mazdamundi to do even more damage to him, and is going to shatter that Goblin Great Shaman, and that is going to be it for the spellcasting. And the bounce power is now heavily in the Greenskin's favor, the Lizardman's favor, as pretty much all big monster is gone, and the only one left is the Arachnarok Queen. It really isn't going to be able to last long against two very healthy Ancient Stegodons, who are both have healing from Lord Mazdamundi, and also we still have the bestilled on the Solar Engine up in the sky here, which is going to have used up all its ammunition, but it is still a terror-causing, highly armored unit here that can just pretty much terror out most of what the Greenskins have left at this point. Yeah, at this point, it is pretty much going to be done and dusted. Yes, Viking the Ancient Stegodon, which is a bonus versus infantry, is quite strong, especially with its, I believe it's like 70 bonus versus, or 70 charge bonus or something around that. Yeah, 70 charge bonus on that Ancient Stegodon can do a ton of damage, and its Gatling gun with its poison really helps with that engagement as well. But the Arachnarok Queen is going to be gone. The Pterodon Rider is going to make sure it is escorted, but that is going to be army losses as all the Greenskins do rout. And that is going to be our first match done, as the Lizardmen do pull through, and RTK will take the first point in the fight. So let's take a quick little look at how things did go on both sides. Lord Mazdamundi racking up the value with 3,000, getting some nice banishment through nations, and of course him on his Ancient Stegodon is a terrifying one at that. And then we do have the Solar Bastillon. Really, its shots weren't all too impactful in this match. It wasn't even quite able to pay for itself, though it was still at full health at the end, and the Ancient Stag getting 1,300. So most of that weight was carried by Lord Mazdamundi. And then we have the Pterodon Riders as well. Just kind of quick little run through on those. But Lord Mazdamundi, more than carrying his weight here, really the only unit that paid for itself, doing a ton of damage, and losing that both of the spiders there was really kind of a shame for the Greenskins, and especially the Rusty Arrows, because the Rusty Arrows could really have turned that engagement in their favor, but that was very good focus from the Lizardmen to make sure that they got dealt with. And then we have the Snotlings, a fun unit to bring, but unfortunately not quite good enough in this match. That is going to be it for the first one. So let's swing on over to the between screens, and then we'll get our next people in the fight. So we already have Satsuma in, and then all right, we're just gonna pop him out, and then now we are waiting on Newport. Send him a little message, get him in. All right. Yeah, the Ancient Stag's very, very strong, and it's just like, it's pretty much also constant poison in those engagements as well, which is really punishing for those monster fights. So we got Newport in, so actually, yeah, let's update the score. So there's one, and we also... There. Ah. Well, that's unfortunate. That's not the same thing that it was at before. Alright, Galbaraz, yes. There we go. Well, I'm not in admin for the World Championship current year, but it's been doing fun for casting all the games. There's plenty of content there, and it's going to be quite fun getting all those games set up. And this is just the first group stage for that. So, yes, the X isn't centered, Bob. I know that it wasn't. It's supposed to be centered, but for some reason the... I'm taking a quick little look at why it isn't, because it was working yesterday. It was also supposed to be transparent. Oh, why is it looking at a different... Well then, that's why. There it is. Now it's working. Hopefully it's not like that for all the other ones. Alright, so both sides are ready, so let's get into this next one. It's Greenskins versus Empire. Should be a very fun one with Vicious Satsuma versus Newport. Alright, let's switch on over to the main screen. Yes, the X is centered. For some reason it was... it created its own file someplace else, and it was a different file. Alright, so loading on in. Yes, for the group stage, there are some people who are streaming the matches, but for the most part, it is going to be casted kind of individually or in pairs. But yeah, we'll touch on that, but let's go over the armies for the Greenskins first off. So we have some Orc big guns in the front line here, going to be making up some of that front line. Otherwise, it's going to be some goblins for the chaff units on the frontal engagements. And on the far flank, let's see, we have some more Orc big guns. For the mobility, we have some Orc boar boys, and for the lords and heroes, we do have Skarsnik going to be coming on in, as he's going to be bringing the Get Back here for 16 extra leadership and fermented fungi. We also have D8 Pika loonies. And for the skirmish phase, which is pretty much a staple for Satsuma, it's going to be bringing 6 skirmish calves. We have some Goblin Wolf Riders with some Forest Goblin Spider Riders mixed in. And then we're going to have the same trio on the other side. So 4 Goblin Wolf Rider Archers and a Forest Goblin Spider Rider for each side to get a little bit of poison into the mix. And we have a Night Goblin Shaman going to be bringing They Need Stabbin' and Vindictive Glare as well. Or Sneaky Stabbin'. They Need Stabbin' is the one on the hero. But yeah, that is going to be it for the Greenskins. Now for the Empire's forces, we have a front line of Outriders with grenade launchers and some regular Outriders as well. Grenade launchers do well against the low-armored Greenskins. And then we have some Knights of the Blazing Sun for mobility with some Empire Knights as well. We have Boris Todbringer. He's going to be coming in with the Middenlang Runefang, giving us up a little bit of extra regen. Front line's going to be Spearmen. We have Swordsman, and we have the Sigmar Sons. We do not, but we do have Double Caster. We have the Amber Wizard bring in Transformation to Kadan, and a Bright Wizard bring in Burning Head. And that is going to be pretty much it. Otherwise, just some Spearmen for the infantry. There's going to be a very heavy skirmish phase, which the Greenskins should be able to trade very well. The grenade launchers won't trade too effectively into these Goblin Wolf Rider Archers. especially with just how many they are, it's going to be very hard for the Empire to really kind of whittle them down, though the Knights of the Blazing Sun going to be getting a nice little charge into these Goblins, doing some nice bit of free damage there, as some more shots just going to be raining in from these Goblin Wolf Rider archers, not doing a whole lot of damage to these Knights of the Blazing Sun, and their grenade launcher is going to be firing in, but luckily these Orc Big Guns do have quite a bit of spread out formation, so those grenade launchers aren't going to be as impactful as the Empire would necessarily like. And the Greenskins formation, though, is slowly approaching the Empire here. But we do have Fermented Fungi actually go down on these Outriders with grenade launchers, rampaging them, which is going to cause them to charge right on in. And that is not something that those Outriders want to be doing. So that is a very nice little catch out by the Greenskins here, making sure that those Outriders are getting pretty dealt with very, very quickly. And that health bar is just dropping very rapidly right now. We do have a transformation to Kadan trying to snipe out the Goblin Great Shaman. And Boris Todbringer is wading into the fight here with the assistance of the Knights of the Blazing Sun. We do get a Fanatics cast going out down the line, going to be coming on through these Empire Knights doing some damage, but we have a Burning Head, which is just going to roast these Orc Biggins, doing a ton of damage between those two. It is going to waver, terrify, and rout these Orc Biggins here, and the Feral Manticore still in hot pursuit of the Night Goblin Shaman, doing some decent damage so far, and it is actually going to be terrified from that summon, and it is going to be pulling out through his own infantry, but the Wah does go off, giving everything a nice little extra buff to him. The grenade launchers have been shattered off the field, and now the Greenskin army is getting into the backline, getting some rear charges from these Force Goblin Spider Riders, and also getting onto these Outriders, as well as the Orc Boar Boy Biggins get a charge into these Empire Knights, should be able to win that, especially with the Goblin Wolf Riders, and actually none of the Forest Goblins are firing in to that particular engagement, so there is going to be no poison in that fight. But this middle engagement here has pretty much been broken on the Empire Knights, so it is now going to be Boris versus Skarsnik here, with a little bit of infantry support on both sides. And Skarsnik, while he is anti-large, he's not necessarily going to be the best at it, and Boris does have his own regen, and he is on his Griffin, so he will be able to pull out of that engagement pretty easily. And I was going to allow the Outriders, who do need to pull back because these Orc Biggins are getting on top of them at this point, and the rest of the skirmishers are really kind of just causing havoc in the back line for the Empire. Balance power slightly in the Greenskins' favor, but it is far from decided at this point. The Bright Wizard, though, is kind of getting chased down. He is on foot, so he's not going to be able to be too evasive here, and with Boris kind of out in the distance, he isn't going to be in any position to be saving himself right here. The Outriders, though, getting pushed off, getting a little caught up with the infantry, and with how much ammo they have left, that's going to be a very unfortunate loss for the Empire. Pretty much now the skirmishers just kind of chasing things off in the periphery. We do have some more Outriders coming back, but we still have some more units returning from the Greenskin side. And another Burning Head, though, going to be arcing its way right through these Orc Biggins, doing a nice bit of damage to them, and is going to be getting them pretty low, to not quite enough to cause them to break as these Orc Boar Boy Biggins. And here is the second Wah. We've had one Wah, yes, but what about second? As the Knights of Blazing Sun try and get a little sandwich in on these Orc Biggins, trying to rout the infantry support, but they do get Rampage here, so now they are going to be kind of stuck in this engagement with these Orc Boar Boy Biggins, and they are going to be taking quite a bit of damage as we have the Goblin Wolf Rider Archers, and it looks like these Orc Boar Boy Biggins looking to get a counter or a rear charge off on to these Knights of Blazing Sun, going to be causing them to probably rout here and a second here, as there they do go, and potentially even shatter, because they're not going to be getting out of this little surround anytime soon. Bright Wizard is also going to be getting broken down, as is the Amber Wizard, and things looking very grim now for the Empire, as it is going to be pretty much Boris versus the world here, and especially with Skarsnik as healthy as he is, I think Boris should be able to beat Skarsnik in an open 1v1, but not with all the support that is left on the Greenskin side. The last of the skirmish fire is being used up here. We saw some Force Goblin Spider Riders with a little bit of ammo on the other flank, and we do have some returning Outriders with a ton of ammunition, but they are so low, and Newport, seeing just how low things are, is going to be conceding. Hey, Happy, welcome to the stream. Glad you could join us. Yeah, Viking, I think the Stone Troll, your opinion on those is kind of shared. At least I know Satsuma definitely is not a fan of the Stone Trolls. He thinks it's more of a trap unit. They can be quite good, depending on what you bring with them. Yeah, let's take a look at all of the values here. Let's start with the Greenskin Skirmish. So the skirmishing, you can see I'm getting some decent values. I mean, these Force Goblin Spider Riders cost $450, so they're able to pay for themselves and a little bit extra. Rest of the units just kind of getting some just general focus fire in. But most of it is like, it's just so hard to deal with them for the Empire, and the rest of the units are going to take a quick little look. Orc Boy Biggins doing some decent work. And then the front line with the Orc Biggins doing some good work, getting 1,000 value on them, trading quite well, and even the 8-peak loonies getting over 1,000. And if we take a look, the rest of the units, not doing all too well, but a pretty good spread of damage here on the Greenskin side. Everything pretty much carrying its weight. As for the Empire, these Knights of Blazing Sun did do quite well, getting 1,200. Otherwise, the frontline engagement really went the way of the Greenskins. They didn't really have any infantry that could stand up against them. They really had to rely on the Knights of Blazing Sun and Outriders, and the Outriders got caught out, especially losing these grenade launchers to that fermented fungi earlier on was kind of a shame for them. And even these burning heads, only getting 700 in value. It is against Orc Biggins, who do have some decent armor, so they're going to be a little bit more resistance than some other units, like Savage Orcs, for example, and even Boris, unfortunately not doing so well. Yeah, Pistoliers probably would have been the more cost-effective way to trade into the Goblin Wolf Rider Archers. Outriders, I think, maybe expecting some more heavily armored. I mean, against like Orc Biggins, they would have done okay because they don't have any shields or anything like that, and the armor piercing would have been nice. But yeah, it's still, I don't know. The 360 fire would have been nice to have, especially considering how quickly these Outriders got pushed back. But anyways, that's it for the second match. So let's swing on over, and hopefully that I don't have to update the source file for each of these, because they should all be linked. And there we go, it worked this time. All right, so it looks like we already have our next contenders into the match. Let's get the map, which is going to be a Sword of Torgold. So it is going to allow the Wood Elves, and I guess potentially even the Dawi here, to have a bit of a skirmish side, because both sides have quite a bit of not skirmish, Vanguard options here on this map. There is Vanguard all the way around both deployment zones, so it should be some good fun there. Jay Phoenix, I know, already has his build lined up. Been a little worried for this matchup. Dawi definitely have the advantage here. For the first two matches we've had, it has been pretty favored for like the Lizardmen against Greenskins. As Lizardmen favored and Greenskins against Empires, generally Greenskin favored as well, especially with Satsuma carrying his weight. But now we're going to be getting into some matches that are more favored towards the ITO side here. So both sides are ready to go, so let's load on into this next match, and we'll be underway with our third 1v1 of the day. A little early for Dactor. Yeah, I guess he is on the west coast here, so an 8 a.m. start for him. Well, about 10:30 for me here, so a little early here, but for some of the European and for the farther east countries, so it's going to be a little bit more towards, I think, about dinner time at this point. See if I missed anything in chat here. Alright, doesn't look like I missed anything. And let's switch the scene on over as well, as both sides are getting loaded on in. So for the Wood Elves, we are going to be going with 4 Hawk Riders up in the sky. And we do have an Ancient Tree Man as well for the Lord. Going to be bringing Dwellers Below. We have Earthblood, and then we have Call of the Woods giving a +5 melee attack in AoE. And for the rest of the forces, it is going to be a very much of a rush build with Wildwood Rangers mixed in with War Dancers. We have some Eternal Guard as well. So the War Dancers have some nice bonus for infantry. Wildwood Rangers have that armor piercing to kind of deal with the armor of the Dawi. That is going to be pretty much it for the Wood Elf here. Very straightforward approach. Now for the Dawi here, we are going to be seeing a front line of Dwarf Warriors. Nothing too elite there. Just going to be trying to hold back the Wood Elves for as long as possible. And of course, they do have a nice bit of bronze shields there in case they do go with some archers. And then it is going to be heavy in the range department for the Wood Elves, or for the Dawi, as we have Rangers going to be thrown into the mix with the Bugman's Rangers as well, which have a nice little bit of regen for themselves. And then, yeah, just Rangers, Bugman's Rangers, and more Rangers for that. Is going to be a Ranger Jamboree. Now, for the rest of the army, it is going to be a couple of Slayers to deal with, like, any of the Cav for the Wood Elves in case of a rush. And then we have Miners with blasting charges to really thin that frontal ranks and then allow those Rangers to finish the job. And for the Lord, it is going to be Grum Brindle, the White Dwarf. He's going to be bringing his Flash Bomb, as well as Grumbrindle has no fear, which is by default, and the Foe Seeker. So Flash Bomb going to give a nice little 24 melee defense reduction and 72% charge speed and speed reduction as well. And then we have a Master Engineer, just going to be fighting a little bit of just firepower. He has a 180 range, 334 missile strength. Should be able to kind of help keep things at bay since there is no Thunderer units on the field. A little bit constant DPS throughout the fight, as long as he isn't taken out of that fight earlier on. All right, let's see. Just looking at chat real quick, but both sides still positioning their armies. Dawi slowly getting their units into place here, as they do have quite a nice little formation here. A nice 20 stack, I think, is what we're looking at here for the Dawi. Take a little look at the unit counts as well. Nice 1,200. That's definitely more than you usually see for the Dawi in most fights, but should be some good fun. Does look like the Wood Elves are ready. Take a look at chat here. Actually, okay, so Dactorino had to be right back. And then we'll be getting on to this. Okay, so he is back, and then he'll be finishing getting his deployment set up. And then we'll be underway as soon as he is done. I think the Dawi here definitely have some tools to really disrupt the initial charge against of the Wood Elves here. With the plenty of Miners with blasting charges, and the Wood Elves really don't have a whole lot to really thin that ranks. They have these Hawk Riders, but with all of these Rangers, they should be taking quite a bit of damage from them. They do have some decent health pools as well. I mean, 3,400. They have very low armor though, and those archers should be able to really whittle them down pretty quickly here. Dawi going to be shifting over to the right here, as the Wood Elf Air Force going to be charging on over, but the rest of the army is going to be lagging quite a bit behind the rest. Sorry about that. So yeah, these Hawk Riders just going to have to be pretty wary of all of these Rangers. I'm just going to have to be trying to dodge shots as they can, avoid as much of that damage as possible, and just kind of slowly whittle things down. It'd be nice if they could probably get rid of these Miners, but with where those Miners are, it's going to be hard, especially with all of these Rangers firing in, and that's a lot of firepower going up towards those Hawk Riders. They are going to be trying to juke and dodge some of the shots as best they can, and so far they've been doing a pretty good job of that. Not a whole lot of shots landing in, and they're just slowly whittling down some of the outside units here. Really, these Rangers here isn't probably something that the Wood Elves need to worry about, and the Dawi just need to try and weather this storm for as long as they can, deal with the Hawk Riders. Take a little chat. Just saying good luck, have fun. And as these Hawk Riders are just slowly kind of whittling things down, we're going to be seeing the rest of the Wood Elf army slowly trying to get a surround off, staying out of range of all of these Rangers, trying to get in position here and then collapse kind of across all fronts as best they can, to kind of pull the attention of the Dawi in multiple locations, because we are having some shots now coming in from the rear. Going to be trying to bypass some of these shielded units here. And if we look, these Dwarf Warriors are actually facing the other way, but now they are going to be turned in to face the Hawk Riders to use that shield, because otherwise they are just going to be taking those shots without that missile parry. No, artillery is not banned, but usually, again, for Dowie, you might bring organ guns, but they can get sniped out pretty easily. Like, for example, with the arrows of Kurnus, for example, can take those out, and the rest of it can do quite a bit of damage. Guac saying artillery should be banned. But seeing as there's no like immediate threat here, the Master Engineer is going to be pushing a little bit forward. I think he might have been trying to get shots on the Ancient Treeman, but this building here was blocking it. So I think that was a little bit of a lapse of Micro there, seeing the or trying to get shots on the Ancient Treeman, but since he was obstructed, the unit was trying to get a line of sight. But now the Ancient Treeman is actually going to be waiting forward, as is now going to be probably the focus fire of quite a few shots. Now the Ancient Treeman, take a little look, has 110 armor, so that 110 armor can help withstand especially all of the Ranger fire. It looks like we are going to be getting a Dwellers below in the back line, but the Slayers are going to be pulling out of that, seeing that cast dropping down, and it can take some damage, but not a whole lot. That is a pretty expensive spell, though, to be kind of missing most of that damage output. But it's a very slow approach so far from the Wood Elves, just kind of slowly whittling things down. Count's artillery, yes. Yeah, the no range faction. They need a Gaze of Nagash artillery piece. But now Grombrindle actually going to be waiting a little forward here. Is going to be providing a little bit of space for these miners with blasting charges, and a flash bomb also does go off, reducing that melee defense of that Ancient Treeman. And the Ancient Treeman is taking quite a bit of damage, and with Grombrindle pushing forward, keeping these spearmen out of these miners, the miners are able to get a nice little volley off, doing some decent damage to those Wildwood Rangers. But the rest of the Wood Elf army is starting to find some gaps in the formation. These Dwarf Warriors missing these Eternal Guard, as they are able to get on to those Rangers, and even the War Dancers, though, taking quite a bit of damage from these Rangers without their shield, and those Slayers are going to be taking a lot of damage in return, though, because those War Dancers have that bonus versus infantry, doing quite a bit of damage to these one-unit Slayers, and that is going to kind of free up these Hawk Riders, who do have armor piercing in melee, so that is something to think about here, as they will be able to punch through a lot of that armor that the Dawi have, and they are going to be diving on in. Earthblood is going to be going off, trying to heal these guys up bit by bit. Bounce power is slightly in the Dawi favor, especially with how much damage that Ancient Treeman took earlier on, and a lot of the infantry as well took a ton of damage on that initial approach, while the Rangers are getting very low. Eternal Guard as well, so it's pretty much the Hawk Riders which are going to try and really disrupt what is left of the Ranger formation. Trying to get into the back line as best they can, doing some damage, keeping those bows offline for as long as possible, or the crossbows, I should say. But yeah, that Ancient Treeman, though, does need to be quite wary of Grombrindle. Grombrindle will put quite a bit of hurt onto him in this fight. He is also a very tanky character himself, with a very meaty 500 armor-piercing weapon damage to bypass that 110 armor of the Treeman. I mean, Dawi still looking quite strong, though. Balance power is in their favor pretty heavily at this point. That frontal engagement, as I was saying before, for the Wood Elves just kind of fell pretty weak against them. They really lost so many units on that initial approach, all of that focus fire, and a lot of these units, they aren't shielded. Like the Wildwood Rangers, they only have 40 armor, they have no shields. The War Dancers themselves, they don't have any shields, very low armor. So all of these Rangers have been able to really punch high above their weight class here, doing a ton of damage there. I mean, you have the Ancient Treeman, who's not going to be taking a whole lot of damage from them, and the miners as well with blasting charges have been able to use up most, if not all, of their ammo across the board. So doing quite a good work there. So the Wood Elf formation is definitely in a dire straits at this point, as they aren't able to shut down all of these Rangers, and with how spread out they are, and there's not enough units to shut down all of them at the same time. These Eternal Guard, just they can't punch through that Dawi formation fast enough, and all of these Rangers are just doing a ton of damage. And yeah, I think it is going to be the beginning of the end for the Wood Elves here. Balance power is pretty heavily against them. Yeah, just all of these Rangers at this point, they just need to stay spread out, don't get too grouped up. And with how low these Hawk Riders are, they're getting pretty low. Army losses are about to kick in, and that is going to be our match, as the Dawi do carry the day and are going to take a point back and they will be on the board at 2-1. So take a little look at the after battle report. Pretty sure the Rangers going to have quite a bit of good value in this engagement. So we have the Bugman Rangers getting 900, 800. That unit got shut down pretty early on, but the rest of the Rangers getting quite a good amount of value. This one getting 1,000. As I was saying before, none of these units here have any shields, and they all have pretty low armor. I mean, the Eternal Guard have shields, but most of the units that the Dwarves wanted to focus down would have been like the Wilder Rangers, the War Dancers, and even the Hawk Riders don't have a whole lot of armor to kind of counteract all that. Slayers actually did some decent work themselves. But they really didn't have any real good targets here. They did have the Hawk Riders once they did commit to melee. Otherwise, they were just kind of a threat to the Tree Man. Miners as well, doing quite well with their blasting charges, that thinning that front ranks. And then Grumbrindle, not doing a whole lot in terms of value, but I mean, he was pretty much at full health at the end, and not a whole lot was left that could really kill him. And if we look at the Wood Elf side, the Hawk Riders, again, not really getting a ton of value, and even like the Wildwood Rangers, War Dancers, just not enough DPS quickly to get through that front line quickly enough and get into those Rangers. The Dawi did what Dawi do, and they held that line. So let's get on into our next match. The Prussian Prince is already in. And we'll update the score here. There we are. Well, I mean, the Hawk Riders are not necessarily too expensive. It's just that, yeah, they just weren't able to really get the damage. The idea was, I mean, you have the armor piercing in melee, so they can help goon things, but having all of those Rangers really kind of countered that Hawk Rider play pretty effectively, because they didn't need the armor piercing to deal with them, and it kept them constantly moving, trying to keep dodge as many shots, and those shots are going to land. And yeah, it is still a rough matchup for the Wood Elves. It is one of the few factions that can counter them at this point. They are quite strong, though, overall. There we go. So let's see, let's put a little, CP3O probably can't see the lobby, so we'll get a friend request in there. All right. Yeah, that map with all of its Vanguard zones, you really had to be pretty careful there, because I mean, the Wood Elves could go for a full Vanguard in the rear, but having those Slayers and Bugman's Rangers also have charge defense as well. I don't think the regular Rangers do, but I know Bugsman's do have that. All right, we got friend request, and we'll get our next contestant invited in. There we go. I think Sword of Torgold is a fine map. I think like the only reason why it wouldn't be is you have all of these forests on one side versus the other. It just allows for one person to Vanguard just a little bit more effectively, but I think overall it's a pretty open map. You have a little bit of extractions, but it's nothing too egregious one way or the other. But there's not a whole lot of maps that have like a nice, good Vanguard deployment zone. Next map is Oakenhammer. There we go. Alright, so we're going to be seeing Lizardmen once again. Definitely a Lizardman favorite matchup. Oh, that is true, Guak. Yeah, one side is a little bit closer. So if they're quick enough, depending on the faction, I guess, but they can either cross that bridge or force the uphill engagement one way or the other. All right, so let's see what. Oh, just saying hi. But yeah, this Bretonnia versus Lizardmen. Lizardmen definitely have the advantage here with like their big dinos. They have a very good front line. Saurus warriors, especially like Saurus warriors or spears, are just essentially halberd units. And of course, there's Temple Guard as well, which is really good against Bretonnian cavalry. So the Bretonnians really need to kind of take it nice and slow, try and use their archers to whittle things down as best they can. They can also use like Trebs, for example, but you have on the Lizardman side, you have Pterodons that can really kind of punch through, or not necessarily punch through, but can harass those Trebs, get some damage with rock drops. You have Mazda Mundi with like Ruination, Banishments. But Prussian Prince, I know, has practiced this matchup quite a bit. So it should be some good fun. We do have Prussian Prince is ready to go, and we're just waiting on CP330, who is readied up. So let's get on into this next fight on Oakenhammer. Three more days for the next Warhammer 3 video? That is news to me. I haven't heard anything on that. Should be some good fun. So let's switch the scene on over. Alright, so for the Bretonnian army, let's go over what Prussian Prince has brought. We do have King Lewin Leoncoeur up in the sky. He is going to be bringing the Sword of Couronne, giving minus 24 melee defense and minus 30 armor in an AoE centered around him. He does also have Foe Seeker and the Ladies Champion, giving him some nice little bit of regen. He also has a Paladin going to be escorting him with Guardian, and we have a Damsel of Life bringing Earthblood and Shield of Thorns to kind of help against the in the engagements for the Cav, kind of keep them alive for as long as possible. We also do have some field trebuchets as well, but is going to be heavy in the archer department as we have peasant bowmen across that front line, and two of those is going to be the Pox Hero variant for a little bit of added poison. And then we have questing knights with their armor piercing to help kind of chew through either the big dinos or to help get just kind of slowly whittle down the Saurus front line. And it's going to be a peasant mob for the infantry. Nothing else, no men-at-arms or foot squires or anything like that. It is going to be a chaff line, bunch of archers, cavalry, field trebs, try and whittle things down. And for the Lizardmen, this is a pretty meta build here, as we do have the Legion of Chakwa, which gives an AoE reduction, or AoE missile resist when it is used. It has 3 charges on that. The Shield of Chakwa, 44% as well, is pretty considerable. Otherwise, there's going to be just Saurus spears in a nice little box. We also have 1 unit of Skink Cohort for a little bit of chaff units. We have 4 Pterodon Riders, pretty standard for the Lizardmen, 2 Solar Bastiladons, and we have Lord Mazda Mundi going to be rocketed in as well, as he does have a Net of Amatok Harmonic Convergence. We also do have the Curse of the Midnight Wind, minus 30 armor and melee attack. We have Apotheosis, Shield of the Old Ones, Banishment, and Ruination of Cities. So we have quite a few things. So yeah, this build is a very standard build for the Lizardmen in this matchup. Very common. It is probably one of the best ways to play it. But Prince has practiced against this build in particular a few times, to say the least, so he should be well practiced. But we'll see if he's able to pull through, because it is still an uphill battle. Yes, yeah, I had gold left over, so I used it on skinks. So yeah, we don't have the Pox Sentinels or anything like that, but that is going to be it. So both sides are ready to go. So good luck, have fun. Ready to start. Yeah, 300 to get you 1 skink, or it gets you 3 peasants. Having a very cheap chaff infantry is very helpful indeed. But yeah, the Bretonnians sitting quite a ways away, going to be keeping these peasant mobs well ahead of the rest of the formation, going to be trying to keep those Solar Bastiladons away from firing in at these peasant bowmen. The peasant bowmen will take quite a bit of damage from those Solar Bastiladons with how lightly grouped up they are, and they have generally low leadership, so it's not going to take too many shots to really rout them off. And then those Pterodon Riders are going to be a menace at chasing things off and providing a little bit of extra firepower into that fight. Yeah, Chameleon Skinks, this really isn't the matchup for Chameleon Skinks. It's pretty much just weathering the storm. I mean, if you have the funds, you could maybe try and fit in one, but you have poison from Lord Mazdamundi, you have poison from all of the Pterodon Riders, so you don't really need any other sources for that. But yeah, in general, though, they are quite a nuisance to deal with for most factions. But the Field Trebuchet is going to be opening up, and it's going to be sitting down fairly low behind this little ridge here, so the Solar Bastillons are not going to be able to snipe it out. That is going to be a job for the Pterodon Riders if they are able to get into that back line, but there is going to be tons of Peasant Bowmen to really kind of counter these Pterodon Riders, keep them at bay, and of course there is King Lewin and the Paladin, who will definitely beat them in melee as well. And it looks like that Paladin is going to start moving in to kind of screen out these Pterodons as well as King Lewin. Because that is one thing the Lizardmen don't really have a good answer for, is dealing with the air units. Now, the Solar Bastillons can get some shots in, but it's going to be a little harder to hit them up in the sky, and they will be able to tank that, and especially King Lewin, he does have his own regen. And now the Pterodon Riders trying to kind of get into the backline. They are able to kind of rout off one of the peasant mobs, but all of these peasant bowmen really kind of putting some pressure on those Pterodon Riders, wavering this one unit, and actually about to be routing them off. And a peasant who doesn't kill a skink does not get to eat. Well, there's only one unit of skinks, so they're going to have to fight for that honor there to get those kills. But already some of them routing off the field, and these other two Pterodon Riders are also getting routed off. So that is a lot of value getting pushed off the field, and especially these Pterodon Riders are more of a utility piece than anything, and not having that mobility is going to pretty much give the Bretonnians the free reign to do whatever they want at this point. I mean, you have the Solar Bastillodons trying to get into these Peasant Bowmen, but they are sitting just below that ridge, so they can't really get a good shots at them, and are instead going to have to try and get pretty close in. But yeah, those Pterodon Riders getting completely chased off. One unit does return. King Lewin can't be in two places at once, and this other unit is sitting right above the Peasant Bowmen, already getting them very low in terms of leadership just by their presence, and a rock drop that might be able to just completely rout them off. And it does have a net going down on these questing knights, which is going to allow the Solar Bastillon and Lord Mazdamundi to get a nice little charge in and a point-blank shot as well. So they are going to be taking quite a bit of damage here, as we also have the Skink Cohort and the Saurus Warriors with spears coming in, really kind of working down these questing knights, and they are waving. Shield of Thorns is going down, plus 22% physical resist and base weapon damage, but that physical resist trying to keep them in the fight for as long as they can, but they do end up routing after getting netted down, and that is going to be one unit of questing knights kind of getting pushed off, and with how kind of close they are, it may very well just rout right off the field here. They do not want to be losing those cavalry so early on. You definitely need them to deal with all of the Bastillodons and, of course, Lord Mazdamundi himself. But so far, things are actually looking pretty good for the Bretonnians, getting rid of the Pterodon Riders early on, and we do have a banishment going in off in the rear, but these Peasant Bowmen are able to kind of screen those guys out, and King Lewin is now returning. He wasn't even able to quite chase off these Pterodon Riders, so the Pterodon Riders do have a little bit of extra life back in them, so they will be returning to that fight, being able to kind of get a little bit of more shots in and potentially chase off some of these Peasant Bowmen. Though if those Peasant Bowmen do turn and fire back up into the sky, they should be able to kind of keep them busy here. The Lizardmen are starting to get into range of that Field Trebuchet for their Solar Bastillons. I don't think they have line of sight just yet, though this one might be able to start firing in onto those Field Trebuchets. I still think the biggest threat here is going to be the archers, and some of them are slowly getting peeled off. Lord Mazdamundi, though, may have overextended himself just a little bit, as King Lewin is going to be diving down, trying to kind of save his questing knight, though the Shield of the Old Ones does go off in response, and we do have the Sword of Corone as well, though, giving it minus 34 melee defense and armor, though the Shield of the Old One's giving 22 damage resist. But you can see he is taking a bit of damage here as more units are going to start charging in. But now the Lizardmen are going to start getting pulled in separate directions here, and it's going to kind of open up their formation to kind of getting isolated bit by bit. They really needed to stay nice and close together. The more of these Pterodon Riders actually do get shattered off the field. Those Peasant Bowmen doing some good work in that regard. But yeah, the questing knights now pulling out of here now that their Shield of Thorns is going to be off cooldown, and Lord Mazdamundi, though, just now taking a ton of fire from all of these Peasant Bowmen, just focusing him down, and he's down to half health, though he has a ton of armor. He has that risky, I was reading the chat at the same time, but he has the missile resist as well. just the innate missile resist, so he is able to tank that. 130 armor as well, but enough shots will slowly break that down bit by bit as the spears now trying to shut down, at least push off these peasant bowmen, as the questing knights are going to be trying to push in response. But it is a pretty scrappy match at this point, as a lot of the units are kind of spread out across the field. We have some of the skin cohort getting chased off, these Pterodon riders. I think that is the last Pterodon rider. There might be one more on the field. I don't see it. So that is the last one getting pushed off, and that is going to be it for the mobility. And now the lizardmen just going to have to slowly kind of pretty much take the fire now, as they don't really have any good responses. I don't think there's any, there's no more banishments left, but I think there might be a ruination. And speaking of ruination, here is one right now. Going to be trying to go right through these peasant bowmen. First shot misses, second one just misses. So unfortunately, every single one of those arms there does miss the peasant, but there is actually one more banishment by the looks of things. Gets canceled just in time, but those peasant bowmen, seeing that go off, is going to be kind of repositioning themselves. And now the Bretonnians are getting a kind of a surround off bit by bit, as the lizardmen are kind of forced to focus one side or the other. So when they are focusing down the side closest to the trebuchet here, it's going to allow both of these peasant bowmen in the rear to continually fire in, and there's no more pressure coming in from the Pterodon riders, as they just slowly get shot to pieces at this point. And the Sword Spear is actually retreating here, is going to allow those peasant bowmen to get a lot more damage off, and one unit does get rampaged, the Legion of Chakwa no less, with that banishment going right in the middle of these peasant bowmen, doing a ton of damage there. Not quite enough to rout them off, as they are able to stabilize, but if that continues, it might be enough. But it looks like they are going to survive that banishment to continue firing on into the lizardman formation. Apotheosis going off on Lord Mazmundi, as well as the Shield of the Old Ones, keeping as many of the units alive for as long as they can, weathering this storm of arrows for as long as they physically can, while the questing knights are cleaning up the routing units that slowly get peeled off bit by bit. And Mazmundi getting a little bit out of position here, getting away from his spear support, and that is going to allow King Lewin and the Paladin to just dive down on top of him, as now the Sora Spears are going to be responding, trying to come to their lord's rescue. But King Lewin and that Paladin doing a ton of damage, and Lord Mazmundi is able to kind of pull out bit by bit. He does pop Cold-Blooded on him to keep him in that fight. But yeah, so far the peasant bowmen are getting a little lower on ammunition, though they still have quite a bit left, and King Lewin and the Paladin still sitting very, very healthy. The questing knights have taken a bit of damage here, but all of these spears are getting very beat down at this point, and if all of these spears do end up routing, that is going to leave Lord Mazmundi and both of the Bastillodons very low in terms of support. And I mean, the balance of power is heavily in the Bretonnians' favor at this point, with having the Solar Bastillodons using up all of their ammunition. Once their ammunition is gone, they carry very little weight in that balance of power, and it very well looks like it's going to be army losses, as the lizardmen do end up routing. Two pretty healthy Bastillodons were still left, but unfortunately the balance of power says otherwise, and the Bretonnians do pull through in this fight. All right, so for the after battle report here, Solar Bastillodons, one of them able to pay for the stealth, the other one sitting a little low in that regard. But the biggest disappointment, I think, for the lizardmen was their Pterodons. Really were not able to get the value that they needed to. They needed to stay alive. They were a little bit too aggressive with those Pterodon riders. I know they wanted to shut down those archers as quickly as they can, but with both King Lewin and the Paladin in the sky, and just all of the peasant bowmen, there's just so many peasant bowmen, they really were very risky to get so close. Rest of the units, the spearmen just pretty much just got whittled down bit by bit. Lord Mazmundi himself wasn't even able to get a whole lot of value. Field Trebuchet firing for the entire match, though, was able to generate quite a bit of value. And the questing knights, their charges were pretty lackluster, were pretty much just a screening tool and kind of chasing off what they could. But the real heroes were the peasant bowmen, just whittling things down. This unit getting 1,100, 1,000 with that one. Another unit getting some decent value, and then you have the peasants. So we have 6-3, so only 9 kills for the peasants, but they were able to get some. So a few peasants will be eating tonight, though the rest are going to be going hungry. King Lewin and the Paladin really just kind of screening things out, especially the Pterodon Rider, so they didn't generate a ton of value, able to get a few nice charges into Lord Mazdamundi, but otherwise that was all for there. So now we are going to be getting into the 2v2s. So it is going to be Counts and Tomb Kings versus Avalorn and Skaven. So let's add some of these up. Update the score. There we go. Yeah, firing in at the back of Lord Mazdamundi. So I might have missed a comment here, but the archers, they count as variants. So it's total of 8 archers, since they have the poison, they have the fire, and the regular, and all of those are variants of each other. So yeah, you can have 8 total then between those. So next matchup, let's see, should be getting people into the lobby. Oh, so actually it looks like they have hosted a lobby for the 2v2s. So we'll get on into that one. Oops, I just joined, did not join as spectator. Alright, and now I can't, there we go. There we go. I cannot. Okay, so I guess there is another lobby up for... Okay, now we have Bob and Jay Phoenix in the fight here, so it is going to be Skaven, Avalorn versus the Tomb Kings and the Vampire Counts for this first 2v2. It's going to be on Southern Chaos Wastes. This is going to be worth 2 points. It looks like they're just testing to see how the lobby lag is. As soon as 2v2 starts, the problems start. Just wait till the 3v3. Hopefully it's not as bad as we've had some 3v3s at, but I think we're gonna, if you're doing the 3v3, try and lower your your graphic settings to try and make sure everything runs as smoothly as we can, because it is going to be quite a few units on both sides, I'm sure. But especially with, yeah, Bretonnia, Skaven, Coast, all of those units going to have a large unit roster, I am sure. Whoop. Looks like we might be having some lobby issues, so hopefully they'll be getting started pretty soon here. Okay, now I see why they left the lobby there for a second. So on the RTK side, we're going to be having Tweedledee and Tweedledum as Jay Phoenix and Bob Tresh here. Going to be rocking the Counts and Tomb Kings, and then it's going to be Avalord and Skaven. But while they are getting their armies set up, I will be right back. I'm going to take the dogs out real quick. All right, I am back. There we go. All right, lag is reasonable, so should be okay. Probably should have told them I was going to be backing out, but we are loading on into our first 2v2. Should be a good bit of fun. We got the Undead Duo, and then we'll be getting on in to the rest. So let's switch that scene on over as we are loading on in with both armies here. All right, about to catch up to the chat here. All right, a little matchup discussion by the looks of things. All right, so for the Counts and the Tomb Kings, we are going to be rocking in with a black coach, and once I find out where they went, we'll go over the rest. So we have Isabella von Karstein, funnily enough, going to be bringing in Master of Beguilement, minus 40 melee attack. We also have the Blood Chalice of Balthori, giving a very, very nice little bit of regen, and it is unlimited charges as well, and it is to any lord or hero, so a ton of magic can be getting, or a lot of healing, especially to the Tomb Kings, which they generally lack that kind of healing. We have Raised Dead, Invocation of Nehek, and then we of course have a Vargulf as well with that black coach. And for the Tomb Kings, it is going to be a Cetra the Imperishable with a Tomb Prince bringing Guardian. So Cetra is going to be bringing the Blade of Petra, and we also do have the Neru's Incantation of Protection and the Dejaf's Incantation of Cursed Blades. And we have My Will Be Done, the lore passive, and we have Curse as well. And for the two hero squad of the Vampire Counts, it is going to be two White Kings, both with Scabscrath to be going on through, especially the Skaven formation and their low armor. And for the rest of the units, the front line is going to be some zombies. We have some skeleton warriors. Otherwise, it's going to be a ton of zombies. We even have the Tith with their 150 model count versus the 120 of the regular zombies. And then for the Tomb Kings, we have just some skeleton spearmen. We have the Kepra Guard as well for a little bit of extra DPS in the infantry department. Otherwise, just some more skeletons in the back line. We do have a couple Blood Knights with triple Ushapti with great bows, providing a very nice, strong, ranged damage on that. Now for the Skaven and for the High Elves, will they be able to outrange the Bow Shapti? We shall see, as we have some Skaven slaves for that front line. So chaff on both sides, and they will be backed up by some Silverin Guard, a little bit more strong infantry front line. We also do have the White Lions of Trace, and we have some more Silver Helms and Illyrian Reavers. So not very heavy in the cav department, but we are going to be going very heavy in the artillery. So we have 3 Warp Lightning Cannons, one of which is the Ikit's Zap Zap, going to be given a little bit of extra ability recharge. We also have the Keepers of the Flame Phoenix Guard. We have the on this side, it is going to be, once it lets me see it, it is going to be the Council Guard with Stormvermin. They have their Guardian, and then we have Ishka's Triad. So a lot of very elite backline, all RORs protecting those guns. So, but the Ushapti going to be able to provide a nice bit of stopping power there, though. However, there is going to be 2 Poison Wind Mortars as well, so a lot of things for those Ushapti to really deal with. They're going to try and get rid of these Poison Winds, and the artillery pieces going to be a little bit of a trouble for them, and they have to keep them nice and safe, especially with the Blood Knights. They don't want to be taking too many shots from those Warp Lightning Cannons and the like. Looks like both sides are ready to go. So let's... I know some units have readied up, and we are underway. A little stuttery here. We'll see if it is going to be able to kind of pull through. Hopefully it does. But yeah, it is a little bit laggy so far here. Let's see what the unit counts are at right here. It's nothing too ridiculous, but yeah, the connection is going to be a little hard. So someone here is having a bit of a connection problem, but hopefully it'll kind of peel or get better here. But at the looks of things, I'm not going to be holding my breath on that one. Oh boy, this is going to be a fun matchup if this is the speed that it's going to be at. But right now it is going to be a little bit of repositioning for the Counts and the Tomb Kings, as they're going to be looking to get some range into the range of the Skaven forces. Maybe. Right now we are kind of at a standstill, but it is slowly moving. There's plenty of time to kind of look over the armies. I did forget the Lords and Heroes on the Skaven and High Elf side. Let's take a quick little look at that. We have the Grey Seer of Plague, going to be bringing the Warpstone Scroll, as well as it looks like we have, I believe that is the Dreaded 13th and the Vermintide. And that is indeed the case. So a nice little nuke from the Dreaded 13th. Oh, just as I thought things were going to be speeding up, I slowed right back down again. But yeah, then he does have the Warp Storm Scroll for the air units, though there is no air units to be using on that, but it is a nice thing to have against like bats and stuff, because it pretty much does one-shot bats if it is cast on them. We do have Alariel the Radiant as well, going to be bringing Earthblood, Tempest, Star of Avalorn, and it looks like Faz Protection as well. Yes, who owns the potato? While we wait, we're just going to take a look at some of these ROR units. The Keepers of the Flame, not one you traditionally see too often, but very nice model nonetheless. And eventually these armies will get in range of each other. Hopefully it will be done pretty soon. But now these shots are going to start raining in, and they're going to make some good connection early on, especially against the Chosen of the Gods. Going to be taking quite a bit of damage on those initial shots, but it looks like we're going to be having a little bit of an invocation, something that the Tomb Kings generally don't have access to, so they're going to be definitely relishing those heals for their units. And those Chosen of the Gods going to be getting a little bit of their health back. The next shot's going to be landing amongst its models, but going to be falling just a little bit short. But they are going to be turning their attention to these other unit of Greatbow Shapti, who have now crested the hill and are now going to be in range to start firing away. But the Shapti Greatbow is definitely going to be getting some good damage off on to the Skaven forces. Now, there were some poison wind mortars are actually pulling back right now. I'm trying to keep them alive. So instead, your Shapti Greatbows are most likely going to be targeting the Warp Lightning cannons here. I'm trying to get them offline, considering these poison wind mortars are trying to pull back away from the range of the Shapti. I'm keeping them alive for that late game, and the Warp Lightning cannons are going to try and get rid of their counter on the field before that thing does get into play. Yeah, it's not always potatoes, but it can be that way if like this models, or if your computer can't handle it, it kind of affects it for everyone. But a lot of times it is just connection, having all of these people in the lobby at the same time. Yeah, now Cetra the Imperishable is going to be the target of all of the shots coming in, and the mortars are going to start raining their own shots into the infantry. Not a whole lot of very expensive targets to be hitting, though. The only one that really would matter is the Capra Guard, and they just need to stay out of range of those mortars, because otherwise, against like all of the skeletons, not really too much of an issue, as most of the power in the Counts and Tomb Kings is in their large monsters, so Cetra, the Vargulf, both of the Blood Knights. And then in the range department with the Shapti Greatbows, who are starting to fire away, already completely killing off Ikit Zap Zap. And all three of their models are already gone, and that is one thing that the Warp Lightning cannons do struggle a bit with, is their ranged, or their health per model is actually pretty low. I mean, it is kind of held together with sticks and stones for the most part. It is not exactly the pinnacle of engineering in any case. But we do have one of Cetra's spells going off. We do have Dejaf's Incantation of Cursed Blades going down, as well as the Blessed Blade of Patra, trying to get a little bit of blinded effect on to the Silvern Guard, as they are going to be waiting on in. As we do have the Blood Knights starting to charge through, trying to charge into the Silver Helms, who have Master of Beguilement on top of them, reducing their melee attack, I think, pretty much to 0. Yes, indeed, it is 0 melee attack for those. But so far, the Counts and the Tomb Kings are slowly breaking down the front line, just kind of a little bit. They're kind of mucking things up with their summons, and Isabella with the Blood Knights doing some good work there. But also, all of the shots raining in on these Warp Lightning cannons is doing a ton of damage, able to rout off this unit, not able to finish off the... Actually, there it goes. There goes the third piece there. So only one of the Warp Lightning cannons is still online and operational, and with all those gone, the Council Guard, the Keepers of the Flame, and the Ishka's Triads are all going to be pushing up to just assist the frontline engagement, seeing that the artillery duel is pretty much lost at this point. But they still the Counts and Tomb Kings still have to worry about the Poison Wind Mortars, who are still alive and well. Haven't used up a whole lot of their ammunition, but they have quite a few nice little targets to be firing in at, trying to probably hit these Blood Knights, and the Kepler Guard are probably a very nice target as well. But the front line is definitely going to be favored for the High Elves, specifically the High Elves, because with all of their kind of elite units, you have the War Lions, Silverin, and especially the Keepers of the Flame are going to be a little bit harder to deal with. They had the Foz protection on them for a bit, giving them a little bit of extra armor, but the shots from the Shapti do armor piercing, so that's going to be bypassing that anyways. We do have the Black Coach trying to get into the back line now, but we do have these Illyrian Reavers kind of trying to muck it up, though at this point that Black Coach isn't going to be stopped by a cheap unit such as those, and should allow that Black Coach to have free reign at getting into the back line, and only one of the Warp Lightning Cannons is alive and well at this point, so that is going to be done and dusted. And now the frontline engagement with all of the big monsters is going to be in earnest right now, as the Blood Knights kind of trying to slowly break through and get into these Poison Wind Mortars, at this point, though. The Black Coach has, for the time being, been stopped by these Illyrian Reavers. Another unit is going to be trying to get back on. It looks like actually a Nero's Incantation of Protection going down, 44% physical resist, but really Illyrian Reavers don't have to really worry too much about the damage that they're going to be causing. Mortars trying to catch out these Blood Knights, and it looks like the shots are going to be landing in amongst. Actually, will they make any connection? And they do, so that Poison Wind effect is going to be applied to that. And now at this point, I mean, we have a very nice, actually, Star of Avalorn going to be healing up some very elite units. So the Keepers of the Flame going to be getting healed up, as is the Council Guard, who have taken a little bit, but mostly the Keepers of the Flame are trying to get healed up as they are getting broken down by those Ushabti Great Bows bit by bit, and they will be kind of clipping these Silver Helms as well. Yeah, 3 is going to be interesting to see if all of our computers are going to be able to handle all of that. It should be some good fun, though. One Warp Lightning Cannon still online, and the Black Coach still being kept occupied for the time being, not allowing it to get onto the units it wants to, which is pretty much the Poison Wind Mortars at this point. I mean, if the Counts and Tomb Kings are able to get on top of them, as these Blood Knights are making a beeline for those Poison Wind Mortars. Poison Wind Mortars are going to start running away from them, as the Council Guard are going to look to try and screen out those Blood Knights. Blood Knights definitely do not want to be getting into those Council Guard, going to want to allow the Bowshopti and kind of the slow whittle down of all the monsters to kind of deal with that. But yeah, it's just a mosh pit of units at this point, as almost all of the range units for the Skaven are getting taken out of the picture. We still have the Warp Lightning crew, so I mean, as long as one gun is still operational, they'll be able to continue feeding in crew at that point, but I don't think it's going to be alive for too much longer. Cetra is going to be getting on top of this unit of Poison Wind Mortars, and only one unit of Skaven Slaves is there to try and screen that out, so that is not going to be stopping that big kitty, as it's going to be getting on top. But we do have some of the, I believe these are Silver Helms, getting onto the Chosen of the Gods, at least shutting them down for now. They won't be able to actually beat them, especially with Isabella coming on in to support. But otherwise, things looking pretty decent, I'd say, for the Counts and for the Tomb Kings. But, I mean, if these Poison Wind Mortars can land shots into these Kepler Guard, which is exactly what they are doing, are going to be able to get rid of that very elite infantry. And honestly, that Kepler Guard is kind of what the Tomb Kings and Counts want to deal with the Keepers of the Flame, the Council Guard, and all of the very elite halberd units, which is going to be very hard for the set for like Cetra, the Vargulf, the Black Knight. Black Coach actually can do decent work with cycling in and out of that, but it is still going to be a little bit harder because there is plenty of anti-large units left for the High Elves and the Skaven to deal with the Blood Knights and the large constructs. But the Ushabti Great Bows, for the time being, are going to be freed up from the Silver Helms. Isabella coming to their rescue, but we do have some more Silverin going to be actually getting clipped a bit by those shots from the Poison Wind Mortars, as the Ushabti Great Bows getting a little bit occupied by them, but the zombies are going to be holding them back at least for a little bit longer. But this backline is going to be beset on all sides by the large monsters of the Tomb Kings and Counts. Ishka's Triads, the Council Guard, can only do so much at this point. When all of these units are collapsing, they can only be in so many places. So Alariel is going to have to try and dive in to try and keep Cetra away from these Poison Wind Mortars for as long as possible, and even the Warp Lightning Cannons. And he has taken a bit of damage. Of course, the Council Guard are very elite halberd units, are also going to be coming in to that Tomb Prince. And that Tomb Prince does not want to get surrounded because he doesn't have the mass that Cetra does to kind of pull out of that. So he is going to want to stay nice and clear of those halberds. He does get kind of charged in as the Council Guard are going to try and pull forward and try and get a surround off on him, as the Tomb Prince is slowly clawing his way out of that engagement. And Poison Wind Mortars still continuing to fire throughout this fight. So even though the Warp Lightning Cannons have gone offline, those Poison Wind Mortars are still doing a ton of work, as both sides have lost a ton of their units. Blood Knights have returned, or have stabilized their leadership. But really, it is going to come down to, I think, the lords and heroes of the Tomb Kings and Counts, if they are going to be able to kind of punch through the Council Guard, as well as the other kind of elite anti-large units. The Ushabti Great Bows have some ammunition left, but they don't have a whole lot, and they do really need to work down the anti-large. And I mean, with the Poison Wind Mortars, they're going to be pretty much able to clear out all of the infantry left for the Tomb Kings, and I don't really see anything left other than some spears. So at this point, I mean, it's just going to be summons left for infantry. So the Skaven and the High Elves very well have a decent chance of coming back, even though the balance power is slightly favored for the Counts and Tomb Kings. All of this very elite anti-large is going to be quite a problem. And honestly, the Poison and Mortars, the Counts and Tomb Kings will probably want them to continue firing in at this point, because at this point they're probably going to do more damage to their allies than to any of the opponent's forces, considering how low they are with all of their units. There is the Kepler Guard still alive and well, and that is going to be the focus of some more Poison with Mortar shots, and that might just be enough to break its back there, as these Poison with Mortars are able to fire in and really work them down. So if the Counts and Tomb Kings, though, can deal with the Lords, so the Grey Seer, Alariel, they might be able to, but those shots raining in from those Poison with Mortars actually probably were a bad shot to be landing in, because it is landing into Silverin. It didn't clip the Council Guard, but they are going to be turning their attention to Cetra the Imperishable, as well as Isabella, getting a nice little charge in, kind of pinning them up against that Warp Lightning Cannon. But the Ushapti Greatbow Summon does go down as well, going to be surrounding what is left of the Skaven kind of leadership here. But those Council Guard are unbreakable, so they will be lasting until the end of this fight. And Alariel is in hot pursuit of that Black Coach. Black Coach definitely needs to stay alive at this point, because it needs to kind of help to punch through those Council Guard. Keepers of the Flame getting fairly low. The Tomb Prince is still around. It does, I believe he had the curse on it, but he definitely has the Rampage, which is going to be very helpful for against Alariel, getting her out of the sky and putting her into a bad position. But we have actually this is going to be a dreaded 13th coming in right into the back, going to be surrounding Cetra and the Ushapti with some more halberds, so they're going to be pinned in on both sides by some halberd units, and they're going to be lasting quite some time. And Cetra is actually at his healing cap. That is not something that you usually are going to be seeing Cetra be getting, but with the Vampire Counts on the field, they are going to be able to provide enough healing to all of their lords and heroes, especially with Isabella. The longer this fight goes on, the more healing they're going to be able to get off. But now Cetra charging into Alariel, going to be missing his charge, as Alariel is able to kind of dodge that and pull out of that engagement, and hopefully take the sky as she does able to pull away. We do have some more of these Skaven slaves coming in, but Cetra going to be just kind of looking to finish off those Poison with Mortars once and for all. And here is that second Star of Avalorn, but here is that Rampage from that Tomb Prince, forcing Alariel onto the ground here. I'm going to be looking to get a nice surround off, trying to bring her down at least as low as she possibly can. Balance power is actually kind of starting to edge more and more towards center. It was kind of pretty heavy in the Counts and the Tomb King's favor, but with these halberds are just slowly grinding everything down. Ushapti Greatbows are now kind of coming into this fight here, and a Scab Scythe just wrecking right on through, though a lot of these units have pretty decent armor, so that could be doing quite as much damage. And the Keepers of Flame slowly getting broken down, and they are able to get routed off. It's like if Cetra can get a nice rear charge off onto them, slowly break them down. Bounce power actually kind of comes back into the Counts and Tomb Kings as that dreaded 13th summon does finally dissipate. And we do even have some White Lines of Trace, which are able to do very good work against these Ushapti. We're able to munch through them very quickly. And at this point, the Skaven, the Clan Rats, are just kind of keeping those last Ushapti units at bay for as long as they can. They are crumbling right now, but they still have a little bit of ammunition left, and especially against the Council Guard, could be doing quite well, though the Council Guard are getting low themselves, 33, very low in terms of overall health. And Alariel is in a bad spot right now, as Cetra does charge in, getting a nice hit off, and the Tomb Prince is kind of coming in, missing his initial charge, but is going to be hounding Alariel, but she is able to take off. We do get another summon of zombies onto the field to kind of muck up these White Lines, and even Isabella is getting quite low herself. With balance power starting to favor the Counts and Tomb Kings more and more, though I think it is far from done here at this point. There is still quite a few Silverin Guard left. The Keepers of the Flame have returned. And really, at this point, I mean, the Counts and the Tomb Kings can force army losses. That's probably going to be their best bet, because they will slowly get whittled down bit by bit. They need these summons on the field, because if these big monsters are going to be forced into melee, the Keepers of the Flame, all of the Silverin Guard can really put a number on them. Both the White Kings, luckily, are on foot, so they will be able to kind of wade through those anti-large units a little bit better. And Council Guard getting lower and lower as time goes on. They still have 30 models left, which is pretty considerable, and they will not be breaking anytime soon. But Isabella getting very, very danger low here as Alarielle is able to dive on top of her, and she does finish off Isabella, and she does die, but she is T-posing here next to her mount. Lovely animations there. Cetra, though, coming in to avenge the Fallen. Going to be getting a little hung up, though, on the white lines. Atreus not getting the charge off on to Alarielle that he did want. And the Tomb Prince as well is starting to crumble away, and he is getting very, very low, down to 100 and dropping, and he will be out of this fight momentarily. I think it is going to be too little too late for these heroes to start dropping for the Counts and the Tomb Kings. Mount's power now heavily in their favor, and the anti-large, the elite anti-large, is just so low. The Keepers of the Flame will most likely be routing to both of these White Kings and a charge from Cetra, and the Council Guard are just too low in terms of total model count, and Alarielle is also very, very low. But that is going to be pretty much it, I think, at this point. Army losses are going to be triggering momentarily. I mean, if these Keepers of the Flame do rout, I think that is going to be all she wrote for the High Elf army, anyway. But the Council Guard will still last to the end, but with how low they are, these White Kings should have no trouble in dealing with them. Black Coach, Cetra, all collapsing in on this formation here, as the last of the zombie summons does slowly finally dissipate. So that is the last of the multi-model units. We do have a Lord here off on the side. Oh, that's the Gracier off in the distance. Units starting to rout bit by bit. Keepers of the Flame still holding on. Only 3 units left. 2 units, but they are still in the fight. Black Coach trying to finish them off and get rid of them. And that is probably going to be just about it. Alarielle does need to try and commit, try and get as much damage out as she can. But as Cetra turns and lands a blow, that is going to be it for the High Elves. And all those units do end up routing to army losses. Council Guard are all that remains, and the White Kings should be able to deal with them, especially with the Black Coach in support. And RTK is going to be pulling through once again for this fight, so that will put them at 5-1. Now the battle is not quite lost just yet for ITO. If they are able to win the last 2 for the 2v2 and the 3v3, it will still put them up on top, considering that is 5 points in total still left on the board. But that is going to be it for this game. Legion has withdrawn, seeing that it's lost, and is just waiting on the final as the Council Guard slowly breaking down bit by bit. Eventually they will be going down. There we go, as both sides do finally pull out, and RTK will pull through. So let's take a look at the after battle report. Plenty of units to be going through for this fight. So we have Isabella, which provided quite a bit of healing with her Blood Chalice, very well used in this fight, able to top off Cetra to his healing cap, although she did fall herself. The White Kings were able to do quite well, almost getting 1,000 apiece, and with their Scouts Wrath, they only cost like 663, I believe is their total cost. Otherwise, for the rest of the units, the Blood Knights got beaten down pretty good in this fight. The Warp Lightning Cannons, Poison Wind Mortars really put a hurt onto them. Even the Vargolf really wasn't able to pay for himself or pay at all for himself. But the Black Coach really able to help deal with those elite halberd units very well, with cycling in and out, racking up the value, 1,800 in total. Take a look at the Tomb Kings on the other hand. Cetra, 3,200. It's not often that you see Cetra paying for himself. That's kind of one of the things that I dislike about him. He is a very expensive lord, and he can quickly get taken down. And at least in my opinion, he often doesn't pay for himself. Otherwise, rest of the forces not doing all too well. Even the Kepler Guard getting beaten down. But the Shapti Great Bows, 2,000, 1,200, and 3,000 for the Chosen of the Gods, doing a ton of damage. Just completely destroying the Warp Lightning Cannons, and then able to do a lot of damage to those elite units, which was pretty much the winning condition for the Skaven and the High Elves. So let's go over what they did pretty quick as well. I mean, just Skaven slaves for the most part. And then we have Ishka's Triads, 784. Council Guard, 2,200. So they did very well, able to stick around to the bitter end. Poison Mortars, 2,000, 2,700. warp lightning cannons, even though they got taken out very quickly. 1,400 on that unit, 600 on the others, still able to do decent work. And then for the High Elves, White Lions, 1,300, Alariel, 2,000 even, and even all of the Silver Guard did very, very well. 1,800, Keepers of the Flame kind of was the only one that didn't really pay for themselves, so the units did very well on both sides. It really came down to the end there. A very good fight indeed. So let's get on into our second one, as both sides are already on in. So let's update the scorecard as well. So that is a 5-0 now, as we'll update the game card as well. And there we have it. Yes, good old Tretch would have won it there. Well, maybe it would have given him more funds, but yeah, it was a very, very good match there. It was a little different than what I think Bob and Jay Phoenix were planning. I heard what they were kind of talking about earlier on, but the Ushabti Great Bow switch was definitely a very good one at that. Did very, very well at shutting down the artillery and then just, yeah, deleting all of the elite units. But very fun match. And even though it was a little slow to start with, it did pick up at the end, so it was good fun there. So let's see. Map should be Blue Reach River. Blue Reach River. So we'll see if we can get that taken care of. So yeah, this is going to be High Elves and Dawi. So there's going to be Prussian Prince and Vicious Satsuma on the RTK side representing. It looks like we have Malverde and Butcherbird on the Chaos and Count side. Just a reminder to set the map. Hopefully they do. It wouldn't be the end of the world if we were on that same map again, but all right. I was waiting on both sides to kind of pick through their armies, and then we'll be getting underway with our second 2v2. So far, we've had some very great matches so far. The last 2v2 is probably the scrap, especially in the late game. Yeah, it really boiled down to, I was looking at chat a little bit, where it came down to the single entities versus the infantry, and unfortunately, pretty much having all of the lords and heroes for the undead being undead really helped out in that. It looks like we did crash for the game here, so we'll be getting back on in. I was gonna put a little message out to loading back in. All right, so loading back on up, and then we should be getting underway for our second one. Hopefully no one else crashed, or hopefully they didn't start without me. That would be unfortunate. All right, let's see if we can see the lobby still. Do not see it. Oh, because it's probably a full game. Okay, spectate. All right, good thing they did not start. All right, good thing that they didn't start without me there. Looks like both sides are ready to go, and we are loading on in. Luckily, someone noticed I had left the scene. All right, let's switch on over, and it should pick up the capture. There it is. So this is going to be the last 2v2, and after this we are going to be getting into the 3v3. And that's going to be some good fun. It does look like it reset my graphics setting, or my controls, so slow that back down. There we are. Alright, so for the High Elves and the Dawi, we are going to be having Lariel the Radiant. Going to be coming in, Star of Avalorn, with Tempest, Earthblood, and the Shield Stone of Isha, giving 12% physical resist as well, and the Boon of Isha, giving magical damage to boot, which would be very good in case they brought any ethereal units, such as Banshees or the Hex Wraiths. And then we also have a Star Dragon as well, going to be rolling on in. Now for the rest of the forces, it is going to be an Archer line. For the High Elves, going to have some Dragon Princes as well to combat any Blood Knights. We have the Pure Main Company as well, which do have Guardian, can help keep things in. Kind of forget that that unit does have that. You don't often see them. We do have Uthar's Raiders, giving a little bit of extra or reduction to, I believe it's missile. Let's take a quick little look at what their thing is. So it's reduces missile resistance and armor and missile parry. Now, if you don't have any missile resist or missile parry, it doesn't really do anything other than the armor. But to like lords and heroes, for example, who have 15 missile resist anyways, that is going to be quite helpful indeed. We have the Ragnarok Slayers, some Ekron's Miners in the rear, and then for the front line, it is going to be the Dawi holding that line. So we have Longbeards, we have Dwarf Warriors, and we do have some more Longbeards with great weapons on that flank. We have one unit of Thunderers. Otherwise, the front line is going to be held solely by the Dawi, and for the Lord, it is going to be, looks like a Rune Lord up on its anvil. Going to be bringing the Master Rune of Wrath and Ruin. And as well as Master Rune of Negation, giving damage resistance. So yeah, things looking pretty decent for lag, so it should be looking a lot better than the last match, hopefully at least. Now for the rest of the forces, it is going to be Chaos Marauders for the front line, going to be charging those lines, and then zombies backing things up. And then we also have the Dragon Ogres, we have Sartorial, and it is going to be Chaos Chariots. So I was thinking how this army was going to be dealing with the armor of the Dawi. And it looks like it's going to be Chariots, 2 Black Coaches, the Vargulf, and then we're going to be having some Black Knights as well to help chase things down. We also have a Chaos Sorcerer of Death. Going to be bringing just not Fate of the Purple Sun. So that's going to be doing some nice and decent damage there. Just that and Life Leeching. And that is going to be it for the spell casting. And of course, Sartorial, take a little look at what they brought on him, is going to be Searing Doom, the Hounds of... Now, I can't remember exactly what that one is. You don't really see it. So it is the Gehenna's Golden Hounds. And then Searing Doom, no Final Transmutation or Plague of Rust. Plague of Rust is kind of interested in not seeing that. Otherwise, for Lords, we do have Isabella, so we're going to be seeing Isabella this time round bringing the same kit as the last match, and a White King on horseback with Scabscrath, and then we're going to be having 5 Felbats up in the sky to at least kind of help chase things off, shut down some ranged units, but they are going to have to contend with Lariel and that Star Dragon, so I don't think they're going to be as useful as they would have hoped for, and especially all the Archer Fire as well. So we have some Marauder Horsemen as well, 1 unit of Throwing Axes, and another Horseman. So not a whole lot of DPS for anti-air, but at least it'll be something to help kind of at least whittle down that Star Dragon. That looks like it is going to be it. I don't think I missed anything just yet, so good luck, have fun. Ready to start. Oops, they started anyways. Okay. So both sides going to be moving forward. Neither side has any super long range, despite this map being the size of multiple football fields. So we're going to be seeing a approach of both sides. We're going to have the horsemen, though, going to have a little bit of skirmish potential, but these archers should be able to help screen them out from doing any damage to for the most part. And then the miners here are going to be just pretty much waiting for the approach, and the thunderers as well going to be providing a nice bit of DPS once things do get in range. So the Counts and Chaos, though, going to be going for that infantry rush. Most of the units, though, going to be arcing their way behind these tree lines. Should be hidden. Actually, no. Actually, because we do have those flying units, they are going to be able to see over the hills here. None of these units are going to be hidden. Unless I'm not able to see that, which is quite possible. But they are going to be arcing their way through the tree line. Going to be... for the most part, in case there was any cannons or bolt throwers, for example, it would be able to shield them from any of that artillery fire. But in this case, they're not going to be needing that cover. They are going to be able to start charging forward. A little bit of a lag. They're still looking to be quite a bit better than the earlier game. And at least at looking at initial armies, the Chaos didn't bring any of their like Chaos Warriors with great weapons or anything like that. All the zombies aren't going to be able to do a whole lot, and the Fellbats themselves, I mean, the Star Dragon, you have Alariel with Tempest no less, is going to be able to really put a punishment on those Fellbats. Pretty much going to have to rely on all of the Chariots, the Dragon Ogre, Sartorial, and all of the Horsemen to really carry their weight, as well as the Black Coaches. I mean, the Black Coaches can do quite a bit of good work, but that Rune of Wrath and Ruin with the gun units, all of the other units, is going to be a very hard thing to effectively deal with. And the Star Dragon waiting in, there's nothing really to, I mean, damage that Star Dragon here, so yeah, he's going to be very content with just charging on in. The rest of the Chaos and Counts forces are way far away at this point, and it will allow the Dragon Princes to have their day with the Chaos Marauders here, able to almost break the front line before it even engages at this point, terrifying these Chaos Marauders. The White King probably does not want to be up here at this point, probably trying to get onto Alaria, but that Star Dragon is right there. We do get a summon of zombies trying to muck things up, but all of these shots just continually raining in, but the pressure on this far flank by Chaos and the forces of the Counts is going to be putting a bit more of a pressure on these archers, getting a little bit too far ahead of themselves, and we're going to have that purple sun going to be going down right on top of these miners. Going to be doing a decent amount of damage, but unfortunately it is going to be a little bit too far away, though the pathing of it might take it right in between these archers. The archers are going to try pulling out, and these Dragonback Slayers probably didn't want to go right on through that, but they are going to take a little bit of damage, but not too much in that regard, and they are going to be now diving on top of all of these Chariots, and Chariots do not want to be sticking around now that those Slayers have entered the fight, and the Dragon as well coming on in. And here is going to be the Hounds of Gehenna as well as a Star of Avalon looking to counteract the damage as it does come in. So a very nice little cast there, keeping those Dragon Princes nice and healthy. And a Scab Scrape may reckon its way through these Ulthar's Raiders, doing more damage to them than the Thunderers. Thunderers have quite a bit of armor, and the rest of the forces, though, these Miners just blasting apart these Chaos Marauders, and the Bats, though, getting on top of the Archers, doing a decent amount of work there. So the Bats have been doing a nice job at shutting down some of the range units, but a lot of the rest of the Chaos forces are taking quite a bit of damage. Although surprisingly, the balance power is actually in their favor, despite seeing all of the damage that has gone their way earlier on. I guess they were able to deal out enough damage to these Dragon Princes to really make that initial engagement worth it, and they were able to shut down at least one of the archers, though these Fellbats are slowly getting broken down bit by bit. More of the Black Knights going to start putting pressure onto that back line, and Black Knights really putting a lot of that backline pressure now. Though the Chariots have taken quite a bit of damage, so some of that disruption is going to be put on hold, and there is only so many Runes of Wrath and Ruin that can be used at this point, and all of this mobility is really pressuring the Dawi and High Elf formation, though the Star Dragon is still going to be a very hard unit to bring down. Although the Dragon Ogres really need to stay alive for that Star Dragon. And at this point, the Bats are just trying to distract that Star Dragon from keeping it out of melee. Black Knight's getting a nice charge into these archers, and this back little group of units here going to be pretty much lost for the Dawi and High Elves as everything is getting broken down. Miners looking to at least try and screen things out, but these archers, a lot of units getting shut down for the High Elves and the Dawi here. And finally, the Chaos Marauders coming back from their initial routes of that Star Dragon, able to start putting some more pressure on these Thunderers. Pretty much offline. These Uthar's Raiders haven't really fired a single shot for the most part, and now these Dragon Princes are engaged with the Dragon Ogres. Dragon Ogres should be doing very, very good work at this point with where they are at. And it looks like a breath attack. Actually, no, that breath attack looks like it was canceled there. Though we do have the piercing bolts going right on top of these Thunderers, doing a nice bit of damage there. Star Dragon really does need to commit somewhere to melee at this point. There is plenty of nice, good targets. We have Black Coaches, we have the Vargulfs, but those Fellbats really hounding that Star Dragon very, very effectively. It's going to be now diving into melee, looking to attack that Vargulf, doing some nice damage. Nothing really other than the Dragon Princes, or not the Dragon, the Dragon Ogres, which can really threaten this Star Dragon, at least in initial combat. The Vargulf over time can cycle in and out and do some decent damage, but we do have the first Tempest being dropped down, trying to get rid of those pesky Fellbats and get them off the field as they do disintegrate completely, as balance power is now actually edging favor in the Dwarves and High Elves here at this late stage. Hey Rubber Duck, welcome to the stream. But the mobility core for the Chaos forces is still very, very strong, having all of its skirmish forces still alive and pretty much nothing to really contend it. The Star Dragon and Alariel are kind of running in tandem throughout the fight here, but they are going to have to be very, very careful with at least with all of the single entities and the dragon ogres that are still around, though the dragon ogres have taken a considerable amount of damage. They are down to 8 models and are on only about like maybe a quarter of HP left, and there is a beautiful breath attack going right down on top of Isabella, doing a ton of damage. And now the Star Dragon going to be committing to melee, diving down on top, going to be looking to finish off one of the lords. A very nice hit there, doing a ton of damage, and a summon of zombies trying to muck things up for the dragon and for Alarielle, trying to keep Isabella alive for as long as she can, but she is getting mucked up now on her own summon, unable to effectively pull out. Though the archers are returning and starting to fire into these Marauder Horsemen, though these Marauder Horsemen are going to be quick in pursuit, going to be trying to make sure that they stay offline. Probably don't need all 3 of them for that, though. And another Piercing Bolt, or the Hounds of Gehenna, I believe that is the Piercing Bolts, coming in right down on top of these Longbeards, doing a nice, decent bit of damage to them. And the Thunderers, though, are going to be online, at least potentially, but these Chaos Chariots going to be charging on in. A few shots, though, going to be landing amongst this Black Coach here, but the rest of the, I guess, the mass for the Chaos Forces is going to be coming in, trying to finish off those Thunderers. But the Star Dragon is still extremely healthy at this point, and even with all of the single entities for the Counts and Chaos, it is going to be very hard to bring that thing down, as it is just cycling in and out, maybe looking to finish off the Chaos Sorcerer, though it is going to be looking for other targets as potentially this Black Coach, but there is still quite a bit of infantry support left of the Dawi. It is going to be holding quite strong against what is left for the Chaos, so as long as the Counts, or the Dawi and High Elves really kind of make sure they stay consolidated with their forces, that Star Dragon is going to be able to do a ton of very good work against what is left for the Chaos and the Counts, as they do kind of pull out here, looking to try and pull apart this formation, maybe get the Star Dragon or Alarielle into a odd position here. But otherwise, these Dragonback Slayers have taken quite a bit of damage. All of these horsemen are going to be doing some good work at kind of whittling them down, because that is a pretty strong counter to what they have left as well. They do have 28 models, but they are getting very low in terms of HP, so they will have an impact, but maybe not as much as the RTK forces would have liked. And the Star Dragon, taking advantage of the White King in a little isolated position, should be able to finish that off with a single attack. It is crumbling right now and disintegrating, and it will rise no more. At this point, Chaos and the Count are doing a very good job at cleaning up the routing units at this point, making sure nothing comes back, considering they have pretty much the overwhelming mobility advantage at this point. Dragon Princes pretty much having to be very, very cautious. They could contend the Black Knights, but with all the other units left, it is going to be a little bit harder for them to deal with. We have one unit of Dwarf Warriors who is pretty isolated, but the lines are forming once again for the Dawi and the High Elves, going to be holding back the tides of Chaos and the Undead, as the forces of order are going to try and pull through. Balance power is still pretty even at this point. Pretty much all of the balance power on the High Elf and Dawi side is going to be in that Star Dragon and Alarielle, and there is a ton of single entities left for the Counts, and even for the Chaos forces. The Dragon Ogres themselves are going to be quite a fearsome foe. The Vargoth has been able to get topped off in terms of its innate regen, and the Black Coaches are slowly getting beaten down bit by bit, but all of the shots kind of raining in, though they are getting a little low on ammunition. There is still quite a bit of ammunition left to help whittle down these Dragback Slayers as much as possible, and more summons going to be going down to muck things up. Alarielle going to want to be pulling off as an invocation goes down on the Black Coach, keeping that thing as healthy as it can. And shots are going to try and start focusing down that Star Dragon. And I believe there should still be one more Star of Avalorn. I don't think I saw it just, I saw the second one. I know there has been one cast for sure. That was done pretty early on. And we are going to be getting an Earthblood, though, to help try and top things off. Going to be healing up a bunch of the units here. The Pure Main Company, Miners, the Alarielle, and that Star Dragon, all going to be getting a nice little bit of extra healing in that regard, as they are going to be forming those ranks, as the Dragon Prince is going to be trying to avoid all of these shots as they can. Star Dragon and Alarielle are going to be diving on top of the Black Coach, and Black Coach getting a little bit pincered here, as the Longbeard's going to be pulling on forward, and that can be doing quite a bit of damage. If that Star Dragon actually does stay engaged in melee, they might want to try and deal with that Black Coach here and now, but instead the Star Dragon is going to elect to pull out while it can, especially with that Vargolf kind of coming in, and going to be cycling around to recharge its charge bonus, as it looks for its next prey on the battlefield. But a very even match so far, and well played on both sides, though the Thunderers have returned, and there is no pressure on them just yet. So those Thunderers are going to start putting down a major beatdown on some of these single entities at helping to whittle down a lot of their forces. Isabella is pretty much at full health at this point, having to use one of her chalices on herself to heal her out, because she was getting pretty low earlier on. That Star Dragon did quite a number on her, but now she is going to be, what you see is what you get for terms of healing. Both of the black coaches are slowly getting healed up themselves. And now a little bit of a stutter here in the game, but the Chaos and the Counts are going to start collapsing upon, but the guns do open up for the Dawi and are going to start putting a major pressure on the rest of the Chaos forces. But another Searing Doom doing some good work on those Longbeards. Those shots over the course of the fight have really generated quite a bit of good value. But the Counts and the Chaos are going to really want to try and shut down these Thunderers if they can, but they are far enough away where they're not really going to reach them with a summon, and all these single entities don't want to extend right now because of that Star Dragon right now. But the Rune Lord is getting, though honestly the Rune Lord could potentially be bait at this point, though I don't think that's necessarily going to be the case. The Star Dragon has been exceptionally careful so far, getting 3 chevrons so far in this match, feigning a little charge in as these Marauder Horsemen trying to get onto the Thunderers, but the Dragon Princes will be there to stop them. Unfortunately, they did not get their charge bonus, and the Dragon Ogres are going to be collapsing as well. So this is going to be a major engagement right here. Star of Avalorn does go off, healing up all of these units, and the Star Dragon may want to try and finish off these Dragon Ogres while it can. The Dragon Ogres are doing a lot of damage to these Dragon Princes, and the Star Dragon and Alariel both dive on into this fight here, trying to do as much damage as the Star Dragon lunges forward at trying to attack that Vargulf, missing its attack, but Sartorial in the backline now, able to rout off these, or at least terrify those Thunderers, and if he is unable to continue that pursuit, those Thunderers will be back online and ready to fire again. The Sartorial's mass is going to be a really hard one for them to deal with, and there is a beautiful breath attack doing a ton of damage to that Black Coach, taking down its health in earnest right here, as it is going to try and finish the job off, landing once again, but the Vargulf, both the Black Knights, Isabella, all trying to surround, with the balance power edging more and more in the High Elves and Dawi favor here, as that Star Dragon continues to land hits left and right. Black Coach does finally drop, and now Isabella is in a little bit of a bad spot right now, as he's completely surrounded by all of the units. The Dragon Ogres, I'm trying to figure out where they have gone off to. They may have just kind of fallen off the map. There's a few units here on the backside here. We have some of the Marauder Horsemen coming on in, and the Dragon Ogres have routed off the field. That is going to leave the Dragon Princes, who have healed up very nicely after that Star of Avalorn, pretty much free reign, and the balance power now shifting more and more in the High Elves and for the Dawi favor bit by bit, as that Star Dragon now has pretty much lost all of its counters to it on the field, and probably single-handedly carry this game at this point. I mean, in a vacuum it might still go down, but it is sitting very, very healthy right now, and that Vargulf is sitting alone amongst some very angry High Elf and Dawi forces, as Isabella does drop here. So Sartorial, the Vargulf, and 1 unit of Black Coaches is all that is left for the Chaos and the Counts. And the Star Dragon once again diving on in. Vargulf is at its healing cap, but it is taking some major hits from that Star Dragon, who has earned its 4th chevron in this fight, really carrying its weight. But that is going to be army losses. Counts and Chaos do fall, and that will be our match. A very, very good match. Went on as quite a scrap. But Sartorial is unbreakable here, so he will be lasting until the bitter end. They do concede, and RTK will take the next fight. So let's take a little look at the after battle report here, at see how things did go. So for the High Elves, 4,700 on that Star Dragon, more than paying for itself. It did so much work in this fight. Its breath attacks were on point. It was very conservative throughout the fight, taking the engagements when it needed to and pulling out when it could. For the rest of the forces, Pure Bane Company archers really didn't do anything. The Dragon Princes, one of them did decent. The other one kind of got beaten down pretty early on, but they had to play very conservative, the 2 Dragon Princes, because they took a lot of fights early on in that, a lot of damage early on from the Dragon Ogres. So we'll take a look at the Dawi as well and just see how well they did. But really, that Star Dragon was pretty much the MVP of the fight here. Nothing else really doing a ton of damage. Actually, as I say that, the Dragonback Slayers, 3,600 themselves, doing a ton of damage. So the Dragonback Slayers and the Star Dragons were the two MVPs for the RTK side. Otherwise, for the other side, the Chaos and the Counts, Sartorial did quite well. Those piercing bolts throughout the battle did a lot of damage over the course of the fight. Isabella doing quite a bit of good healing as well. Vargolfing 2,200, and the mobility was actually doing very well. Even the two black coaches did pretty decent work. Otherwise, that is going to be it for that. So I think we have our 3v3 left. Oh yes, the dude. So for this Clan War, as you can see on the board right here, it is 4 1v1s, 2 2v2s, and the last one is a 3v3. All those fights are the 1v1s are worth 1 point, the 2v2s are worth 2, and the 3v3 is worth 3 points. So we will update the board to reflect the score as it is. And with that, they do clinch that fight. So actually, for this 3v3, I will host this. I'm going to update my graphics real quick, though, because we don't want to be lagging too much. So we'll go into that real quick. Go to graphics, and we will drop that down to high. Should be good enough. And then make sure that unit size is where it should be. Okay, unit size is still large. Very good. Okay. 3v3. Host as spectator. Alright, so a lobby is up now for those. I'm opening up all of these slots. And now it'll be the 3v3. So, try to remember who is playing on these sides. Okay, oh, looks like everyone has joined on in. There we go. So we're waiting on, let's see. Oops, what happened? There we go. We are waiting on Nevermore and Guac. So if you guys cannot see the lobby, I can get you the friend code so you can see it. Oh, looks like both sides have joined in, so we don't have to worry about that. Wait, what happened? All right. So this is going to be a rather interesting matchup here, as we have a very wide gun line for RTK with Skaven. We have Coast and Empire. So I think it's safe to say the artillery duel is going to be won by them. But we definitely have a lot of mobility and a good solid frontline infantry and monster support by the Bretonnians, Norska, and the Wood Elves. And generally especially against Coast, an archer line does quite well against them. So having those units on the Bretonnians and the Wood Elves can do quite well against those units, and even against the Skaven as well. And their general low armor will do quite well. And even the Empire is low armor. So that's one thing that you can kind of pretty much count on. They do have some armored units, but an archer line could do quite well against these gun lines. We'll see if that is able to be the case. So yeah, the Wood Elves did lose against the Dawi. The Dawi actually do have the advantage in that matchup. It's pretty much their high armor, and the archer lines for the Wood Elves just can't punch through it enough. And they did go very wide with the archers themselves, and the Wood Elves did try and rush them a bit. And all of the units that are good in a rush for the Wood elves, they do have they have low armor, they have no shields, so an archer line, or I guess crossbow line, for the rangers and bugmen's rangers can really do a ton of damage in that regard, and that is exactly kind of what happened, where they just weren't able to punch through the front line quick enough, and the archers did very, very well for the Dawi. So, now we are waiting on the 3v3. The finale of the Clan War should be some really good fun here. We've had some very interesting strategies in some past ones. I remember VM playing with Thorgrim, giving him his AoE. Oh, right. I got to change. That's right. I'm the host now, so I have to do that. So 10,000. And the map is Empire Unfortified, which is a rather interesting map, though we've done this one before. It is a large map, but it does have quite a bit of either forests, various terrain. Yeah, the Zotes where this, again, they have armor piercing, but they also have magic damage, which is the same thing for Blade Singers. Which is unfortunate because Blade Singers would do quite well against Dawi because of their armor piercing, but unfortunately they do magic damage on top of that, so unfortunately the War Dancers are still a better pick. But they don't have armor piercing, so... Alright, double checking everything. Looks good. Okay, map and funds are set. So should be some good fun. Yeah, the units that would be good against them. Blade Singers. There's some other ones like that where it's like you have magic damage and armor piercing. And the best faction, well, not the best faction. Chaos also has a lot of heavy armor as well, but... I think with black coaches, like the same thing with like Cairn race and Hex races, like they're magic, so like they're ethereal, so they'll get that magic damage just kind of by default. But like units like I believe the wolf, crap, the Skaven units, the Wolf Rats, that's it, Wolf Rats. The Wolf Rats have, I think they have magic damage as well and armor piercing, which really doesn't make a whole lot of sense for them why they have magic damage and armor piercing. I don't know why they have magic damage anyways. Like armor piercing themselves I think would be good, because then it would give them a little bit of diversity. But of course Skaven don't need any more help than they already do against the Dawi. They have plenty of other tools, so I guess another unit would be a little unfortunate for the Dawi when they have that matchup hard enough as is. Yeah, magic, like particularly, there's certain vortexes that do very well against the Dawi. Like, well, you have Pendulum, which is a good one to use. Maybe a little less so now than before, but still Overcast does quite a bit of damage. Purple Sun actually can do quite a bit as well. If you group things up, because the Dawi have high mass, they actually take quite a bit of damage from the Purple Sun. Even though they have magic resist, it's still a damaging spell indeed. Or I've actually been playing around, or yes, Jay kind of gave me the idea of using Firestorm. If you overcast that thing in a Dawi formation, it lasts for like a good minute. It just moves across the formation, so even if it doesn't necessarily do damage, it keeps them moving, and if it does get on a unit, it can pretty much one-shot a Thunderer unit if you cast it right on top of it, or really any other grouped-up unit. So magic still has its uses against the Dawi, but yeah, magic damage from units is a little different. Oh, speaking of which, before we start, while they're still going armies, I'll be right back. We can bring the dogs in. Hopefully they didn't dig another hole in the yard. I'll be right back. All right, we are back. Looks like they're still building their armies anyways, so we're good. Let's see, what did I miss? Yep, the skin wolves were enjoying the snow a bit. No holes dug today. Or no destroyed potting plants. Alright, looks like one side is ready for the most part. Just waiting on RTK, and then we'll be off to the races for this 3v3. Hopefully, with all these people in it, it's not going to be too bad, but it very well might be. Ooh, Kislev's campaign mechanics. I think there's probably more qualified people to be going over that, or particularly people more familiar with how Kislev handled things in the tabletop. But survive. I think, wasn't it? Actually, I heard something like where you have to enlist the help of various factions, like the Order, the Undead, stuff like that, where you can actually get them all to help against the forces of chaos. So like factions like the Empire, Bretonia will be a lot easier to enlist their help, and then there's factions like the Counts and like the Tomb Kings will be a lot harder to do so. But I think that I heard something about that, where you can. That's kind of the goal there, is to get help from people where you can't really do it by yourself, but you can do it with the help of others, where you get, I don't know, like bonuses in the fight or something like that, depending on who you have helping you, or the enemy gets less bonuses or something like that. That wouldn't surprise me if that is how things go. So looks like everyone is about ready to go, so we should be getting into this next one pretty quick here. All right, we are ready. Let's load on in. See how that goes. Yeah, I'm not familiar with all of the units for Kislev that they have. Definitely, yes, they have the Bear Cavalry. There's the unit we saw in the trailer is like the Ice Guard or something like that. Where it's supposed to be, I think that's a new one from tabletop where they're going to be adding it to the game. Anyways, so let's see how things are going to handle themselves for this fight. Could be rather interesting. Hopefully it's not too much of a stop-motion picture, but it should be fun nonetheless. As the counter continues to Ice Guard. Okay, so that was what they were called. Well, if the timer is anything to go off of, it's not going to be quite as smooth as the last game, but hopefully it'll be all right, as long as we don't get too close to the 100-second mark. Just wait out, let others do your job for you. So let's take a look at the unit count to start with. So RTK has 3,600 against 1,900. That's going to be a nice little test on the performance of everyone's machines. But for the Undead, Skaven, and the Forces of Order, let's see what we've got today. So we have Warplock Jezzails for Skaven. We have some Deck Gunners. We have the Shade Wraith Gunners. We have some more handguns. Frontline's going to be Zombie Pirate gunnery, Deckhand Mobs with pole arms, and the regular variant, we have Count Noctilus. So even though Pirate is not here, we still have Noctilus. We'll see if he's going to be running from the fight like always, with Raised Dead, Invocation, Wraith Storm, and Captain Roth's Moondial. We do have the Council Guard as well for their Guardian. We have the Jade Wizard. We have Volkmar, the Grim. Going to be rolling it in with all of his abilities by the looks of things. So a nice unbreakable mass of, with the Bound Banishment, Grand Hammer of Sigmar, Grand Shield of Faith, and the Grand Soulfire Bombardment. Rest of the forces, we have a Brood Horror mixed in with a Deathmaster. Oh, we have a little bit of fun in the tree line as well over there. I'll leave that to see if it even goes off or not. So we have a Plague Priest up on its Plague Furnace, going to be getting a nice little Mortis Engine effect. We have Blessed with Filth. We have Pestilent Breath, I believe is the bound one on it. We have Vermintide and Scrying Stone to keep it nice and healthy in case it gets into a little sticky situation. For the Cavalry, we do have some Empire Knights, and we do have the Sunmaker as well in here. Going to be providing some nice little firepower onto the field. We also have a Gunnery Wight to keep the Sunmaker, Noctilus, and the like nice and topped off. Let's see what else we have. We have the Silver Bullets, the Sterling's Revenge Free Company Militia. So those two units do have stock, so they will be hidden until they get nice and close. We do have some Poison Wind Globadiers as well to help in that frontline infantry grind. Otherwise, Spearmen, for the most part, nothing too heavy in terms of mobility. He's going to be very heavy in the range department. We have some more Slingers as well for a little bit of DPS or damage over time. But now for the forces of ITO, we do have a couple of Hawk Riders up in the sky. We do have some nice mobility. Knights of the Realm, 3 units of those. And then we also have a Questing Knights. We have some Glade Riders with spears as well. We have Ariel going to be on the field with Draika. And then we have a Femir Balefiend of Fire. We have Wulfric the Wanderer. So the Femir Balefiend of Fire is going to bring Fireball and Burning Head. We'll take a look at what Ariel did bring. So Marauder Berserkers for that infantry to really help kind of chew through the Skaven and the Counts, or not the Counts, the Coast front line. Should do quite well and to get through that very quickly. And the Peasant Mob to absorb that initial fire. And then we have some ranging this with some Peasant Bowmen with arrows here. Just a regular Peasant Bowman. No of the poison, actually. No poison at all. 1 unit of poison on the field. And then we have some Skin Wolves in the tree line here with some more Questing Knights and another unit of Peasant Bowmen with Pox Arrows. And then we do have the Fey Enchantress going to be coming in with her bodyguards. So the Fey Enchantress is going to be bringing the Earthblood. We have Regrowth. And then for the 2 Paladins, we have one of which should actually, no, none of them have Guardian. And then, let's see, where is Ariel? So we have Wulfric with Seafang, Hunter of Champions, and Stand Your Ground. And now where is... not Stand Your Ground. Fight or Die. I think that... actually, I think I'm getting all those mixed up. Foe Seeker. I don't know why I was mixing those up. Foe Seeker. And then where did Ariel go? Alright, I know where she went. We have some more Dryads. Gonna be off in these trees here. And Ariel, for her kit, she does have Apotheosis, she has Tempest, she has Soul Stealer, Berry Wine for a nice little bound regrowth, and we have the, let's see if I can get it there, Acorns of the Oaks of Ages. A couple casts on a nice little Explosion, which does quite well, and it reduces speed as well by 48% for those it does contact. But that is going to be the army, so let's see how things are able to handle themselves. I think both sides are ready to go at this point. Axio's ready on theirs. A few last movements on RTK's side, so ready to start on my end. All right, so the deployment zone is almost completely full on the RTK side. They have so many units, they've pretty much covered every single spare spot on the deployment zone, while the other side of the field is going to be a little less so, but they still have quite a few units. This is a lot. This is a lot of units on the Counts Skaven, or Coast Skaven and Empire side. Looks like everyone is ready, so let's get things rolling. All right, timer has started, and we'll see if the little surprise is going to work on either side. little scouting force coming in. I think scouting on both sides here. Otherwise, the Sunmaker is going to start opening up, looking to try and get some hits into these Hawk Riders. Actually does make a few connections here, either hitting the trees next to it or hitting a few units on its descent. But at least the shots were not in vain. And the ammunition really isn't too much of a concern considering the White King, or the Gunnery White. I'm going to get those units mixed up. But yeah, the Gunnery White is still here. I think they do have Scab Scraith as well. I kind of figured that. I know J Phoenix does love that ability. But the Bloated Corpse has been seen. And its trap, we'll see if it will hold off and if it will work against these Dryads. There isn't really anything to stop it at this point. It can only run, these units can only run away and maybe hope to get one of the single entities on it. But instead, it is trying to go for the Wraiths of the Frozen Heart by the looks of it, trying to get as many hits off onto the elite unit. It is stuck on the tree line though, but here it comes diving on in, exploding into the Wraiths of the Frozen Heart. And will it be able to rout it off the field? They are able to stabilize their leadership, but it did get its little hit off. And the other side is going to be seeing nothing in its own Vanguard, and will be maybe trying to come back and get its own hits off. But that is going to actually make all these units hidden again. So it did briefly tell the RTK forces that, hey, there are stuff over here. But the Paladins and the Fae are going to be joining on that flank, looking to kind of punch through. And that'll actually help them because they'll be coming in from the tree line here, while the rest of the forces are going to be taking quite a beating in the open field, as these Peasant Bowmen are taking quite a few shots from the Sunmaker, as it is just going to continue raining in death from above. It does love the smell of napalm in the morning. Shots making some decent connection here, but now the rest of the Skaven forces are going to start opening up fire, as these Warplock Jezzails are also going to start opening up themselves. But the tree line attack is underway, as the Spearmen going to try and hold back. We do have the Sterling's Revenge getting a little too far forward, trying to get shots on the Fae Enchantress, but in doing so gets a little too far forward and is going to be trying to pull out here, while we do have the Deathmaster, Volkmar all coming in to assist in that tree line engagement. Now the Wood Elves are going to be getting a bit of an advantage by engaging there, but eventually they will be coming on out and trying to engage the rest of the main forces. But while they are doing so, engaging heavily on this flank, trying to get some of their mobility around to get to bear on the Sunmaker, for example. The rest of the forces are going to be taking a ton of damage as they do approach. The Shade Wraith Gunners are making some decent connection, but some shots are getting blocked by the tree line. And a Burning Head going to be going right through these Skaven Slave Spears, and actually going to be arcing its way just a little bit too far forward, so most of that is going to be missing its mark. So doing a little bit of damage, but otherwise most of its shots are going to be missing its mark. Ariel is going to be coming out of the tree line, engaging with the Zombie Pirate Deckhand mobs, while the rest of the forces are going to be collapsing upon these spears, while the Skin Wolves trying to get into the backline as well. The Brood Horror has taken quite a bit of damage, but the pressure is going to be coming in hot and heavy from the right flank of RTK here. And now the Hawk Riders coming in, looking to dive down on top of the Shade Wraith Gunners, coming in into melee. There is some units to respond here. We do have the Silver Bullets, which can do quite a bit of damage, and there is, of course, some Skaven Slaves in the mix here, but there is quite a bit of chaff to kind of keep these Spearmen, or the Glade Riders with spears, at bay as best that they can. But yeah, Ariel now just using her mass, just kind of continually pushing forward bit by bit. But so it's Volkmar and Ariel are going to be two of the real hard things for both sides to deal with, as the Hawk Riders are getting pushed free very quickly by these Silver Bullets. And the Council Guard just kind of laying in wait here, looking to potentially either get on Ariel. But we do have a very nice Soul Stealer going to be catching these Skaven Slaves, the Spearmen, and the Gunnery White with the Sunmaker itself. And a boat does go right on through, not really making a whole lot of very good connection though, as it kind of goes through the narrow point of most of these units, against like these Spearmen, or even through all of these Skaven Slaves and Council Guard. Probably would have been the better place to be casting that thing. But we do have Hunter of Champions on Deathmaster Snicketch here, as he is kind of getting surrounded, as the Wolfric Loner does kind of pull in. The Acorn of the Oak of Ages does go off right in the middle of all of these Council Guards, so a very nice little cast there. We do have a Scavenge Grave as well going through, and a Burning Head making its way through the line, looking to probably connect with both of these Clan Rats and the Zombie Pride Deckhand mob, Gunnery mobs right here, as it does a nice bit of damage, working its way right on down through the line. Might be routing off those Clan Rat Spears off of that cast, but the Collapse is coming in on this flank here, trying to keep things at bay, but it is a ton of units focused on trying to break through this unit. But by doing so, there is those, where are the... Actually, the globes just come back from routing here, so if they can get back in, there is a nice, juicy blob of infantry and units here to be firing in. And as long as they aren't firing in where the Council Guard are, they'll be getting very good value, while the rest of the globes right here are able to kind of keep these questing knights at bay, and are going to be able to start turning their attention towards this very blobbed up infantry, which is a very dangerous thing to do when you have Skaven as your opponent, or Poison Wind Mortars, and those Poison Wind Globadiers are very, very strong when that does happen. And the Sunmaker continuing to just fire away, trying to deal with these Peasant Bowmen, and doing a ton of damage on that shot there. But there is just so many units still left on the field, still 2,300. Actually, it was 4,300. Those might be from summons, so that number has continued to climb for the Skaven and the Count side with all the summons on the field. And another beautiful Soul Stealer going to be catching these Deck Gunners, Skaven Slaves, and a lot of other units, just slowly whittling things down. And here is more Burning Heads coming through, this time trying to get these Shade Wraith Gunners, but again, they didn't really make a lot of good connection there. But the Brute Whore is going to be able to get pushed off, and a lot of the other Skaven forces are going to start to be pulled back into the fight. The summon here of Malevolent Dryads trying to shut down that Sunmaker, and should be able to do that. There isn't a whole lot of units that can really stop that from happening at this point. But the Globadier is going to start raining in against these grouped up Dryads here, going to be getting some good damage there. And the guns continuing to fire, as this left flank of RTK is pretty much unopposed at this point, just really able to fire freely. There are a few units putting some pressure on, but Noctis, these Poison Wind Globadiers, are all able to just continue to fire freely in. But you still have to deal with Ariel, who has taken a considerable amount of damage. All of these, like the Silver Bullets, for example, are firing in, doing a lot of damage to her, and Volkmar himself is staying very, very healthy, and there's not a whole lot of units on the Bretonnian and the Wood Elf side that can really deal with them. You have the Ephemeral Warriors, who are anti-large. Actually, those are just the Miststalkers, who are just armor-piercing. Can do some damage, but he is taking some damage from Wolfric, as he is getting hounded in that regard. But the shots are continuing to rain into Ariel, taking a ton of damage. She does have Berrywine trying to heal her up, but all that damage coming in from all of these guns is going to be putting a major hurt on to her, and I don't know if she's going to be able to out-heal that damage, if she's going to try and regroup with more of her forces here. But both of the Paladins still going pretty strong, with the Fae, but the Fae Enchantress herself is at her healing cap, and now it is going to be Mortis Engine versus Mortis Engine here, as the Plague Priest does roll on in, but the Fae Enchantress taking a ton of damage, and the balance of power is shifting more and more into RTK's favor, as all of the heroes and lords are taking a ton of damage on the ITO side. The Fae does actually shatter at this point, and the Fae trying to say it as a Wraith Storm is going to be going down on top of her, doing some decent damage there, whittling her down bit by bit, as she is at her own healing cap. And Wolfric not going to be able to do so much by himself, especially against like Volkmar, for instance. And I don't know if the Deathmaster is still around or not. He may have been taken out of the fight. Actually, there he is right there. He is still sitting very, very healthy. So even with Wolfric, who is a very good duelist, not going to be able to quite deal with him. Draika and the Ariel trying to just kind of muck things up in their backline, but all of the gun units just able to continually to fire in throughout the course. We have these Giselles are back online, the Sterling's Revenge, the Silver Bullets, all of these units just able to do so much damage. The boat actually doing some decent damage there. These Shade Wraith Gunners are at their healing cap. But yeah, the balance power just continually shifting heavily and more heavily in the favor of RTK, as just more of the heroes are just getting focused down bit by bit. Draika is now down. Ariel is on just like negative HP at this point, 71. A few more shots is all that's going to be able to finish her off. As you can see, her healing cap is behind her. Deathmaster deals the final blow, and with her gone, that is pretty much going to be it. We do have Hunter of Champions on the Plague Priest, so the Paladin and Wolfric will be able to do some decent damage, but it is not going to be enough. There's just too much left for the Skaven Coast and the Empire forces. Actually, Empire forces are very, very low. Not a whole lot left. A few Spearmen left. Most of it is going to be the Coast and Skaven left, doing the heavy lifting with these Jezzails, able to just kind of finish off Wolfric, and that is going to be our match as the army losses are just about to trigger for ITO, and that is going to be our game. So RTK will pull through in rather convincing fashion in the end, but the battles were all very, very close. I think probably one of the closest ones was that High Elf Count, Drowi, and Chaos Force, which was a very fun one indeed. Let's see how these things win. So actually both of the Blade Corpses, I missed the other attack, though it did get some value, getting a few kills off, but this one was able to land right amongst the Wraiths of the Frozen Heart. Otherwise, all the other units, the Gunnery White actually given Count Noctilus a run for his money in terms of value. Otherwise, most of the forces here, actually the Coast forces really didn't deal any ridiculous amounts of damage. Most of it, I'm going to guess, was by the Skaven and by Volkmar. Volkmar got 2,700. The Silver Bullets did quite well, Sterling's Revenge as well, and the Sunmaker, 2,400 for it. Able to get a ton of value, especially with all of the ammunition going the way of the from the White, the Gunnery White. And as for the Skaven, Deathmaster almost getting 3k in value. The gun units, Brood Horror actually got 1,800, even though it kind of got beaten back pretty early on. And the Poison Wind Globadiers, 3,200. That is for a unit that cost 550, and it got many times, 6 times its value. Very well done on that side. But otherwise, so that's pretty much where a lot of the damage came from. As for the ITO side, Paladins did pretty good work. Otherwise, the Knights didn't do quite as well, getting really beaten down, even the Peasant Bowmen. As for the Wood Elves, RL getting 2,100, like a 1,000. And then, unfortunately, the Hawk Riders got taken out trying to get onto those Shade Wraith Gunners. Unfortunately, it did not pull through in the end. And Nevermore getting some nice Burning Head, 1,600 on the Femoral Balefiend. And the Berserker Rush, unfortunately, did not stand up against the Poison Wind enough. But that is going to be our series. Update the final score. So it is going to be 10-1 for the final one. And just kind of get the final matchups underway. That was a very fun one indeed. But that is going to be all the games that we have. RTK does pull through 10-1. So, unless there is anything else, any other questions that anyone else has, either about this, either about the Warhammer World Championship, which is currently underway. I've been getting a few games casted for that. Things have been going quite well in that regard for both myself participating and for the casts. I think most groups are getting most of their fights done. The first group stage, I believe, finishes up on the 6th of March. I think that is the date that was set. So we still have another week to go for that. And then we'll be getting into the second group stage and potentially a third one. I think there will be 3 with how things are going, unless we're only going to be doing like the top 1 or 2 positions of the second group stage. But so far, it's been pretty fun. Yeah, unless anyone else has anything else, I think we're going to wrap things up here. We had quite a few fun matches today. And yeah, it's been a while since we had our last clan war. Looking forward to some more in the future, though I know there's going to be quite a few tournaments in the way of things, especially with the Warhammer World Championship getting underway in earnest. But unless anyone else has anything else to add, I think we are going to finish things up. You have the one weak link. We might have to cut him loose. But otherwise, fun games, and I think that is going to be all I have for you today. So, without further ado, have a good one.